Everyone has their own life. Even best friends can't be together all the time. Not to mention being a member of Avengers. When we get together at ordinary times, or when someone is in danger and difficulties and asks for help, the nearest person will always rush to give support as soon as possible. However, under normal circumstances, it is best for everyone to have their own life. Like now. Tony Stark, who returned to the seaside villa, put down his phone. Leaning on the sofa, he said to Jarvis, "Don't say I didn't listen to your advice. This guy Sue actually took Wanda to Hawaii for a trip. I even spent more than $30 million to buy a private island as a present for Wanda's 18th birthday. By the way, how much money did you get?" Listening to Tony's words, Jarvis said helplessly, "Shri, I'm afraid your real reason is that you don't want your friends to know about your taking hallucinogens. As far as I know, although Mr. Sue left New York, he took Wanda to the newly purchased private island. But other members of the Avengers are in New York. Dr. Banner is still working as a professor at the university, and Mr. Steve Rogers is at the Union base at the moment. Even Ms. Natasha Romanoff is there, so if you want someone to watch over you in case of accidents, you can call any of them." Hearing Jarvis expose his little thoughts, Tony Stark said speechlessly, "Jarvis, you are still too smart." "Thank you, Doctor. It's not a compliment, forget it." He waved his hand, and then picked up the specially prepared bottle of hallucinogen from the table. Looking at the glass bottle in his hand, there is only about 2 milliliters of the hallucinogenic map. Tony Stark was silent for a while. "Jarvis, after I take hallucinogens for a while, I may speak nonsense. Record it for me when the time comes. I need to watch it again after I wake up. I always feel that all of this seems to have a very big connection." Facing Tony's request, Jarvis will never refuse. It's like hallucinogens. Knowing what Tony Stark wanted to do. But Jarvis still did not dissuade. Just eliminates the addictive stuff inside hallucinogens. "Okay, sir. I will record the whole process of what happened after you took hallucinogens. Also, I'll keep it a secret like Ms. Pepper." "Good job." After laughing, Tony Stark opened the glass bottle containing the hallucinogen without any hesitation, and then drank the hallucinogen in the glass bottle in one gulp. At the same time, in the parallel universe, it was difficult to swallow the biscuits that had gone bad and moldy. While swallowing the spirits, Tony Stark said to Anthony, the gem of wisdom in his mind, "Hey, who would have thought that spirits paired with biscuits would be a good choice? I have never discovered that one day I will have such a desire for clean and clear water. But it does taste good, after all. Moldy biscuits paired with spirits, the musty smell reminds me of a certain cheese." Facing Tony Stark's bitterness, Anthony, the jewel of wisdom, didn't know how to comfort him. After all, there are only 9.3 million survivors left in the world at this moment. And these more than 9.3 million survivors are suffering from hunger every day. Every now and then someone will starve to death because they cannot find food. Compared with it, Mr. Tony Stark is already extremely lucky to have moldy biscuits and spirits at this moment. Although, the spirits are almost gone, and the next thing to do is to drink the unpolluted sewage. From the end of that war to the present, there has never been a rain or snow in the sky. It should be summer, but the temperature is almost dropping below zero. Don't comfort me, Anthony, I'm not that weak. Anyway, I'm going to die sooner or later, just go to see Pepper and Peter Parker. But before that, Anthony, next time the two of us play chess, you are not allowed to pry into my thoughts. Keeping my mind all the time and outplaying me, that's cheating, dude." Facing Tony's framing, Anthony also responded, "In fact, as a gem of wisdom, no matter how many times you and I play chess games, the final winner is me. After all, although you are a genius, I am the embodiment of wisdom." The wisdom gem Anthony has no emotions, and all its words and feedback are all generated according to Tony Stark's character. Because of this, it gives a perception of how bad Tony is in the moment. Sometimes, bickering and teasing is always more effective than comforting. Just as one person and one gemstone of wisdom continued to bicker, Anthony suddenly said, "Shri, it seems that the thinking connection channel has been reopened." The eyes of Tony Stark, who also sensed it, instantly lit up. Regardless of the cold floor, he lay down directly. "Anthony, I leave it to you, we don't have many chances." "No problem, sir." Facing Tony Stark's request, wisdom gem Anthony immediately began to connect. In other parallel universes, he simply can't see what reality looks like. Just kicked that Daredevil Matthew Murdock guy away. White Tank Iron Man had a mocking expression on his face. That's right, Daredevil couldn't see anything at all. Originally, I kindly wanted to persuade him, as long as he agreed not to trouble me, Then I would use the extremist procedure to cure his eyes. I didn't expect this stupid guy to refuse without any hesitation. Oh, then let him be kept in darkness for the rest of his life. As he said that, Tony Stark was about to activate his armor when he suddenly became dizzy. Damn it, what went wrong? This is the second time since I integrated the symbiote armor. Although the words were full of disgust, the white pot Iron Man still closed his eyes. It's interesting to see the truth of the universe last time because of the symbiote. I don't know what to expect this time. Multiple space-time parallel universes. Damn it, Peter Parker is a traitor. The ugly and brutal Tony Stark looked at his companions bloodthirstily. After seeing Captain America Steve Rogers with half of his brain cut off, he couldn't help but sneer. How does it feel to lose your brain? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and find a way to teleport back to Earth. If this continues, I'm afraid our camp will kill each other. Zombies Wolverine and Zombie Ant-Man listened to Tony, even though he had turned into a zombie, but he still didn't forget to hate Steve Rogers. He urged dissatisfied. That eternal damn hunger makes everyone feel crazy again. Unbeknownst to Suche, Tony Stark started taking hallucinogens. I don't know a certain node in the parallel universe. Tony Stark with the gem of wisdom in his mind is connected with the Tony Stark of this universe, and even the Tony Stark of other universes. Somewhere in the Pacific Islands. At this moment, Suche is lying on the beach chair, drinking cool coconut milk with the sea breeze blowing, enjoying life happily. There is no worldly disturbance, no mortal hustle and bustle. Sunshine, sand, sea breeze, beautiful women. It can be said that this is one of the great enjoyments in life. Well, definitely, there is only one beautiful woman by my side at the moment, and that is Wanda, who just passed her 18th birthday. At the age of 18, Wanda did not choose to celebrate with Natasha Romanoff and Pietro. Instead, I want to spend time alone with my boyfriend. Naturally, Suche would not refuse her girlfriend's request. Moreover, it is not a day or two since I have been waiting for Wanda to become an adult. So I bought this private island. The coming-of-age ceremony 3 days ago can be said to be the most memorable day in Wanda's life. Originally, he wanted to be with his boyfriend, according to what was recorded in the Black Gold Diary. Live in seclusion in Zijing Town, and then plant a peach blossom forest. But Zijing Town has already been destroyed. It has been almost half a year, and the construction of Zijing Town has not yet been completed. But this island is very beautiful. Lying on the custom-made double beach chair, Wang Da put his head on his boyfriend. As long as I think about my bold move on the night of the coming-of-age ceremony 3 days ago. The upturned mouth corners could not be concealed no matter what. Although it hurts a bit. But I still like to be transformed into a knight, and I like the feeling of my soul swimming between heaven and earth when I am confused. I don't know if I can conceive my boyfriend's baby after 3 days of hard work. But it doesn't matter, anyway, he and Sue are still very young. Sooner or later she will be pregnant. Taking off the sunglasses and putting them on Wanda's cheeks, Suche hugged Wanda and closed her eyes, enjoying the warmth from the sun. It is said that after experiencing some things 3 nights ago, Wang Yin became more and more obsessed with himself. According to her, she finally waited until she grew up, and finally gave her all to herself. Therefore, Suche can also understand the fact that the essence of food is delicious. Patting Wanda's bigu in a bikini lightly, Suche smiled and said, I don't think I put on sunscreen for you yet. I didn't wear sunscreen, but I probably don't need it. As she spoke, Wanda waved her hand lightly, and the crimson magic slowly dissipated, and the sunlight, which was originally very strong in ultraviolet rays, gradually became softer. Definitely, it's not that Wang Da used the red devils to affect the energy base of the sun. After all, Wanda isn't that powerful yet. Just use the crimson magic to cover a layer above the 2 people to prevent excessively strong ultraviolet rays from directly shining on the skin. Feeling where my skin drum is, my boyfriend's hand is constantly playing tricks. Wanda shyly rubbed her head on Suche's shoulder, then raised her head and said, Honey, we haven't finished building the Seaview room yet. As soon as he finished speaking, he subconsciously sighed. Caught her boyfriend touching something that shouldn't be touched, then Wanda blushed quietly and said, Didn't it be agreed that today we will continue to build the home that belongs to the 2 of us? Continue to build our home? When it came to continuing to build a home that only belonged to him and Suche, Wang Wo nodded excitedly. From scratch, build a home that only belongs to me and my boyfriend bit by bit. Seeing Wanda's excited look, Suche smiled and got up from the beach chair, and then went to build a Seaview room for 2 people together with Wanda. New York, in Tony Stark's villa. Call. From the state of hallucinogens, Tony Stark was panting heavily, and the t-shirt on his body was already soaked in sweat. The whole person is like being put in a steamer in summer. He picked up the water on the table and gulped it down. After drinking a glass of ice water, Tony Stark breathed a sigh of relief, as if he had been born again. Jarvis, have you recorded the expressions and words in my state just now? After panting calmly, Tony Stark immediately asked Jarvis. It's all been recorded, sir, but what? Sir, it's very strange. After you just took the hallucinogen, your whole person has changed a lot. I'm sure you are you, but at the same time, it's different. It's as if several souls are having a conversation. Hearing what Jarvis said, Tony Stark immediately said, call up the screen just now and play it back. Sir, Ms. Pepper is back. Facing the reminder from Jarvis, Tony Stark immediately said, then act as if nothing happened for the time being. After speaking, Tony Stark got up and came to the door, welcoming Pepper to come in. Why are you so good today? Seeing Tony standing at the door to greet him, Peepo smiled while handing him the bag in his hand. I thought you would be in the laboratory. Wow, isn't this my dear Ms. Pepper, who has been busy with Stark Industries orders until now? So whether it's as the largest shareholder of Stark Industries or as a boyfriend, I think I should come over to greet you. That sounds good. After changing the shoes, I saw that Tony's t-shirt was soaked with sweat, but there was nothing unusual about his complexion. Peepo smiled and asked, are you exercising? Yeah. You also know that you can sleep better at night by exercising for a while, and recently I feel that my body is relatively weak, so I should strengthen some exercise. Facing Pepper's inquiry, Tony Stark spread his arms and smiled and said, by the way, the bathwater has been set for you, you can take a good bath and then have a drink before going to bed. So sweet. Holding Tony's face and kissing cheeks, Peepo walked towards the bathroom. Watching Peepo walking towards the bathroom, the original smile on Tony Stark's face gradually disappeared. He went to the closet and took out a clean dress to change into. Then he went to the water dispenser and took a glass of water and drank it. Jarvis, do you know how horrible it would be if a world didn't even have clean water? Putting down the water glass, Tony Stark said to Jarvis. Maybe, I think I should do something. Definitely, before that, I have to make sure that what I see after taking hallucinogens is real, not something I imagine. After all, whether it's a universe full of zombies or a universe on the verge of collapse, it's all very scary. Honey, what are you doing? Island. Looking at Su-Che, who was sitting in the living room, Wanda, who was taking a bath in the bathroom, called out, can you bring me a bath towel? Hearing Wanda calling himself, Su-Che closed the notebook, then got up and walked towards the bathroom with the towel. In the bathroom, sitting in front of the dressing table with a towel wrapped around her body, she looked at Su-Che in the mirror, who was blowing her hair with a hairdryer. The corners of Wanda's mouth raised slightly. Honey, what were you doing in the living room just now? I was thinking of a big bathtub for two, we can take a bath together. Sent me a message from Tony. Facing Wanda's inquiry, Su-Che didn't hide anything, and at the same time adjusted to the breeze to help Wanda blow his hair carefully. He said with a smile, it may be that there is something wrong with Tony, so I need to help him refer to it. Facing Wanda, Su-Che has nothing to hide. And before going to bed at night, it is best to dry your hair, otherwise you will have a headache when you get up early the next day. Although Wanda's crimson magic has been mastered very proficiently. However, when the headache is inevitable. Tony Stark again. I found out that in the entire Avengers Alliance team, he seems to have the most things happening to him. Speaking of this, Wanda suddenly raised her head and looked at Su-Che. Honey, after a while, I will train with Rod Wilson and James Sam. After the establishment of the Avengers Alliance reserve team, didn't Steve tell us to familiarize us with teamwork first? I have this plan, but I'm not in a hurry for now. After helping Wanda dry her hair, Su-Che lowered her head and kissed Wanda gently on the cheek. Training is necessary, but before that, you must first familiarize yourself with the strength of the first-generation Avengers Alliance members, their character and fighting direction, and their battlefield abilities. Wait for all kinds of things. You have been with the first-generation Avengers Alliance since you were a child, and you are very familiar with the first-generation Avengers. But Rhodes and Sam are different. Their so-called acquaintance is just one or two members. The others are all seen on TV or the internet. So I want Sam and Rhodes to be familiar with these, and then they can really devote themselves to training the ministers. Hearing her boyfriend's explanation, Wanda's beautiful eyes flickered, then she turned around and put her arms around Su-Che's neck and said coquettishly, that means, my dear, we can continue our vacation on the island for a while. Definitely. Squeezing Wanda's strong nose, Suche hugged Wanda horizontally and put it on his lap. As long as you want to stay, then we will stay here as long as you want. HMPH, I can't stay enough for a lifetime. Leaning forward to peck at the corner of Suche's mouth, Wanda tilted her head and looked at Suche with a smile in her eyes. Staying here with you is not enough for a lifetime. Okay dear, you can deal with Tony Stark's matter first, I'm going to apply a facial mask for skincare. Saying that, Wanda leaned forward and whispered in Suche's ear, full of charm. Get over it early, I'll wait for you in the bedroom. After finishing speaking, he put another stamp on the corner of Suche's mouth, then put on his slippers and walked to the bedroom. Well, the method taught by Sister Natasha Romanoff on how to take care of the skin is simply too effective. That's right, after all, as a super agent, Natasha Romanoff is not an ordinary person, and her work and rest schedule is even more irregular. Days without rest and nights without sleep are common. Even so, Natasha Romanoff's skin is still good. So Wanda is very concerned about Natasha Romanoff teaching her how to take care of her skin and how to make her skin look beautiful. Watching Wanda run back to the bedroom, Suche smiled, then got up and walked back to the living room. Sitting on the sofa, Sue reopened the laptop. In this video sent over, Tony Stark begins the video with a serious expression. Dude, remember the day I accidentally took hallucinogens? I was talking to you about Iron Man and Iron Man and Iron Man. At that time I thought I was just hallucinogenic. However, I have been feeling that things are not that simple these days. So just yesterday, I had Jarvis develop an advanced hallucinogen, and I took it. Wow, sure enough, I guessed right. What I felt was not a simple hallucination. After Tony said this in the video, he spread his hands pretending to be relaxed, but his dignified expression seemed to say that things are not that simple. Man, the following video is what happens after I take hallucinogens, and I just freaked out when I saw it. So, be mentally prepared. After speaking, the video flickered a little, and then turned into Tony Stark in a t-shirt sitting on the sofa, talking to Jarvis. It is not difficult to hear from the conversation that Tony, who has not yet taken hallucinogens, is about to start using them, and Jarvis suggests that Tony ask himself to help him guard. Even if he is vacationing on a private island he bought in the Pacific Ocean, other Avengers members are still in New York. It's just that Jarvis' proposal was rejected by Tony Stark. He didn't want other Avengers members to know about it except Suche. After all, this matter is too incredible. In addition, this was only Tony Stark's personal matter after all, and Suche knew it was fine. After all, there was no need to hide the relationship between the two. Although the relationship with other people is also very good, but after rejecting Jarvis, let Jarvis record. Tony Stark in the video picked up the hallucinogen on the table without any hesitation, and drank it down in a big gulp. Seeing this scene, Suche, who was sitting on the sofa, frowned slightly. Things in this world are getting more complicated now. Many things were not mentioned in advance because of my black gold diary, and some things that never happened began to appear. Just like now. The original film universe, Tony Stark has never taken hallucinogens or the like. Not to mention connecting with myself in other parallel universes. But now, things have started to develop towards multi-universe. Although, this is just a prototype. And maybe the multi-universe will never have any connection with the main movie universe in which it is located. But, at least Tony already knows about the parallel universe. In the video, after Tony Stark took hallucinogens, nothing in particular changed for the first 2 minutes. Still lying on the sofa after taking hallucinogens, he had a somewhat dizzy and uncomfortable expression. But soon, about 2.5 minutes had passed. Tony Stark, who was originally lying on the sofa, sat up instantly. Even the expression started to change. The screen played here and paused for a while, and then in the video, Tony Stark's expression and tone kept changing. It seemed as if several souls had gathered to talk. In order for Suche to see clearly, when Tony Stark sent the video over, he also deliberately marked each self, who spoke very intimately. World on the verge of destruction. Iron Man. Sorry, it's all up to me and Anthony, the gem of wisdom in my head, to make this happen. But folks, my world needs your help. White pot Iron Man. Huh. Anthony in your head. What is that thing? Comparable to my new invention of the symbiote armor. Tony Stark. Hey, wait. What symbiote armor? What gem of wisdom? I only heard about 6 infinite gems from Sue, but no gem of wisdom. Zombie Iron Man. Lots of new parallel universes, good fresh food. On the verge of destruction. Iron Man. Wait, You don't know about the wisdom gem, Anthony? It's the 7th ego gem out of the 6 infinite gems. The 8th infinite gems is the ego gem that resurrects Nemesis. You don't experience these? Well, even if you haven't experienced it, I think Mr. Fantastic will tell you that the gem of wisdom is hidden in our heads. Zombie Iron Man. I'm so hungry. What a delicious meal. With you guys, we can pack a meal. White Pot Iron Man. The me who said the gem of wisdom. You summoned such a disgusting guy into the brains of us people. On the verge of destruction Iron Man. No, exactly. I don't know why he, or you, are here. The gem of wisdom Anthony is just a medium, and it will attract us in that parallel universe, not what I say. But everyone, regardless of whether what happened in your world happened in my world, you must remember, heart Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards. Once he wants to reshape the universe, it will cause Nemesis, the goddess of revenge, to be resurrected, and then the Earth will be destroyed. White Tank Iron Man. Mr. Fantastic. Hey, he and the Fantastic Four have long since disappeared. With the symbiote armor, I'm not worried about this guy. Tony Stark. Wait, what Fantastic Four? What Mr. Fantastic Charlize? Who is he? White Can Iron Man. Oh, there is actually a little white Tony Stark who doesn't know what will happen in the future. Tisk. Why is my parallel universe peer so idiot? Even Charlize and the others don't know. Are you obediently staying in an ivory tower fabricated by others? Since you are my parallel universe peer, I will give you a piece of advice. When there is civil strife in Mutant, you must take the opportunity to recruit a group of them to become your subordinates, so that you will have the absolute right to speak. On the verge of doom Iron Man. Wait, how does it feel like Tony Stark of this symbiote armor has the potential to be a villain who wants to dominate the world? Zombie Iron Man. Open your world, I will bring you eternal life, although the price is hunger, but cooperate obediently, otherwise I will find you sooner or later. White Can Iron Man. Disgusting guy. Tony Stark. Mutant? What's that? A new kind of human. Iron Man. You don't even know mutant. You haven't heard of such famous mutants as Professor X, Magneto, and Wolverine, have you? Just now you said that you don't even know about the Fantastic Four and Mr. Fantastic, but you should know that he became a super ability user earlier than us. Wait, what year is your current world? Tony Stark. 2011. White Tank Iron Man. 2011. It shouldn't be. You know that mutant existed a long time ago, and 10 years ago it almost turned ordinary people all over the world into mutants. The Fantastic Four and Mr. Fantastic also appeared 7 years ago. How did you win that New York battle with Chitauri without mutant and them? Tony Stark. We have the superhero Silver Moon Knight, the most powerful Avenger on Earth, Suche. On the brink of destruction Iron Man. Walter. Silver Moon Knight. Villain Tony. Is there a superhero in your world named Suche, nicknamed Silver Moon Knight? White Can Iron Man. Damn, don't call me a villain, I'm the orthodox. Besides, there's no such thing as Silver Moon Knight in my world, and I don't have infinite gems in my head. Zombie Iron Man. Whoa, delicious food. I will find you, I will definitely go to your world. Tony Stark. Shut up, damn it, besides, there is no Silver Moon Knight in your world. You know, he is my best friend, the most trusted guy. Also, Minecraft really doesn't have mutant, nor Mr. Fantastic Richard Reed and Fantastic Four, at least I haven't heard of them. On the brink of destruction Iron Man. Oops, we're running out of time, we'll be breaking up soon. Dear peers in parallel worlds, I need your help. My world is about to be destroyed now, and there will be less than 3 months at most. The world no longer has any clean water, food, crops, electricity, and other resources and energy sources for survival. Even with a population of 7 billion, there are less than 9.3 million left, and people are dying every day. I can't open the passage to the parallel universe. I hope you can lend a helping hand and at least save some people. Otherwise, the remaining 9 million people of the 7 billion people on the Earth may all die in the future. Before I finished speaking, the so-called connections seemed to be unraveled. Originally, Tony Stark, who was constantly changing his expression and tone of voice, woke up suddenly. Then he sat on the sofa and panted heavily, as if he had just been fished out of the water. The pure white t-shirt was also soaked with sweat. The video playback ends here, on the sofa. Looking at the video in front of him, Suche was completely surprised. Tony actually had a connection with himself in the parallel universe? Just because of taking hallucinogens, you can connect to yourself in the parallel universe? Well, although 99%, it is because of the Iron Man Tony Stark marked in the video, who is on the brink of world destruction. All of this should have been created by Anthony, the gem of wisdom in the mind of Tony Stark in that world. However, this is indeed enough to surprise Suche. You must know that in the original movie universe, this scene did not appear at all. Leaning on the sofa, Suche looked at the finished video and thought about it. Tony Stark in the parallel world marked by Tony in the video with different tones. Some of them know, some don't know. For example, the white tank Iron Man should be Tony Stark of the Axis of Good and Evil event. The guy who used the Extremis program to make all men handsome and women beautiful, trying to achieve his ambition by himself. Needless to say, the zombie Iron Man comes from the zombie universe. This universe is very famous. When the pink shooting star flew across the sky and landed on the Earth, the zombie virus began to break out. The superhero who eventually turned into a zombie was divided into two factions, good and evil. And the zombie version of Tony Stark is undoubtedly the villain's gang. Even the planet Devourer in that universe was eaten by zombies. Huh? It seems that Uncle Ton has been sacrificed again. But speaking of it, this universe is sad, because even after the restart of the universe, the meteor still pierced the sky and landed on the Earth. In other words, that universe repeats what it has experienced over and over again. As for the world on the brink of destruction Iron Man? This universe Suche really doesn't know. Tony Stark, Suche who owns the gem of wisdom Anthony knows it. It's just that the gem of wisdom in his mind which was taken out by Mr. Fantastic with a scalpel. And that world is not destroyed. But according to what was said in that video just now, the Earth where Tony Stark, whose world is on the verge of destruction, is already finished. There is no possibility of salvation. There were less than 9.3 million of the original population of more than 7 billion. And according to him, the destruction of the world will take less than 3 months. But the more than 9.13 million survivors may not be able to persist for 3 months. After all, without the most basic water and food, more than 9.3 million people can't last long. After reviewing his thoughts again, Suche discovered the reason why Tony can connect to himself in other parallel universes. There are 2 reasons. The first reason is that Tony took hallucinogens by mistake for the first time, and the second time was that he took hallucinogens on his own initiative. The second reason should be the wisdom gem in the mind of Tony, whose world is on the verge of destruction. Although the universe he is in does not have the 7th lesson Infinite Gems Wisdom Gem, Suche does not know about that infinite gems. But never dare to underestimate the energy possessed by infinite gems. What's more, is a gem of wisdom that can still talk to Tony Stark. I am afraid that it is precisely because of these 2 points that Tony can be associated with other parallel universes. In the final analysis, all this is because of the reasons for their own appearance. Got caught by S.H.I.E.L.D. after all, said the guy who was under protection at the moment. The reason he put hallucinogens in his and Tony Stark's food was to remind himself and Tony. The forces behind that guy targeted the 2 of them. And the main target is yourself. So from this point of view, it is the butterfly effect created by myself again. Just when Suche was thinking, a video popped up on the computer. This is a video invitation from Tony. Clicking on the video, I saw Tony holding a glass of ice water and said to Suche, "Dude, have you watched the video I sent you? How is it? Did you startle?" Surprised indeed, but not to the point of being scary. Huh. So you know more than I do. Listening to Suche's implication, Tony Stark put down the ice water in his hand. Well, everyone has their own secrets, and I know this very well. But dude, what do you think about this? I mean those Tony Starks from the parallel universe. You think, after I took hallucinogens, those things happened in my mind, and even several things I said in the video. Do you think that everything is a hallucination after I took hallucinogens, or is it real? Facing the video, Tony, who has an extremely serious expression at the moment. Suche thought for a while, and then asked, "What do you think?" 90%, I'm 90% sure about the degree of trust in this matter. Shrugging his shoulders, Tony Stark snapped his fingers and said, "Mutant, Professor Fung, Magneto, Wolverine, Fantastic Four, Dr. Fantastic Charlize Reed. I don't even know these names. But after taking hallucinogens, I had it mentioned in a video recorded by Jarvis. And I can even feel how desperate I am who claims to have a gem of wisdom in my head." Hearing what Tony said, Sue nodded slightly. Picking up a bottle of soda from the table and taking a sip, he said to Tony who was watching him in the video, "Your feeling is right, Tony. In fact, parallel universes have always existed. What you mark in the video, whether it's the tank sweeping Iron Man, the desperate Iron Man, or the zombie Iron Man, as actually another you in the parallel universe. Oh shit. Listening to Suche say, after taking hallucinogens, what I felt was actually real. Tony Stark immediately put his hands on his head. That is to say, in the parallel universe, I am either desperately waiting to die, or I have become an ambitious villain, or even turned into those disgusting zombies. Damn, I can't believe it, it's really. Halfway through the speech, Tony Stark couldn't continue. After a while, he said to Suche, "Man, how many parallel universes are there? I always feel that there are still many me." Indeed. Facing Tony's question, Suche spread his hands. "But I don't know exactly how many parallel universes there are. But the only thing that is certain is that some people may not be able to touch parallel universes in their entire lives. Let alone affect parallel universes. Even if we know that there are parallel universes, we can't let the parallel universes have any intersection with the parallel universe we are in now. Even from the birth of the Earth to the destruction of the Earth. Well, little Spider-Man counts. After all, when Doctor Strange casts a spell, the little Spider-Man always interferes with his words, which leads to the intersection of multiple parallel universes, and the 3 generations of Spider-Man are in the same frame. Okay. After hearing what you say, I'll take some of it." Hearing from Suche that it is very possible that there is no need to worry about the intersection of parallel universes in this life, Tony felt a little relieved. But soon, he said to Suche, "By the way, buddy, there are no mutants in our world, and there are no Fantastic Four Dr. Fantastic. However, you don't exist in those parallel universes of theirs. So, you are the unique existence in our world?" About being unique in this world, Suche is very clear. If there is a self in the parallel universe, that would be a strange thing. But it seems that it is not only me, but the only person shown by the Marvel movie universe, who does not have a second parallel universe peer. Suche knew that there was actually another one, and that was Leamerica Chavez. It is the girl who can travel through parallel universes in the movie nicknamed Wanda. She is also only one, and has no peers of the multi-universe. So after hearing Tony say in the video that he is unique, Suche didn't care. So, there are no mutants in our universe. Well, this actually saves a lot of trouble. By the way, buddy, do you know how to open the time and space of parallel universes? In Tony Stark's world, which is on the verge of world destruction, there are at least 9 million people who need to be rescued. Speaking of this, Tony Stark took a sip of the ice water on the table. Although I don't know if we should do this, but more than 9 million people, if we don't do something, then maybe. Before Tony Stark finished speaking, the mobile phone on the table suddenly rang. Seeing that the calling number was not displayed on the mobile phone, it was obvious that the caller was dialed using special technology. Tony glanced at it, but didn't turn off the video Suche was having with Suche. Shrugging his shoulders at Suche, he picked it up. As soon as the phone was connected, I heard a familiar voice from the other end. Hey, Tony, how are you doing?" Listening to the voice from the other end of the phone, Tony Stark frowned, and then turned on the loudspeaker. "Who are you? I seem to have heard your voice somewhere. Forget about me so quickly. Hey, this is really in line with your Stark family's way of doing things. Back then, your father filmed my father and made him forget." Listening to the voice from the other end of the phone, Tony Stark rang in an instant. "Are you Ivan Vanke? The wounds on your body healed so soon? I thought you died in prison." While talking, Tony Stark pressed the mute button, and then asked Jarvis to start tracking the source of the call. "I'm not going to die so easily, at least, until the Stark family is actually written into the history books." "Jarvis, where is this guy Ivan Vanke?" "Sir, we are tracking on the Fangwin Oracle network, and the tracking results show that the East Coast." Tony is having Jarvis track down Ivan Vanke. Ivan Vanke on the other end of the phone was sitting on the ground, with the substitute parrot standing on his shoulder. Behind Ivan Vanke, a burly bodyguard was hanging from the ceiling with his feet off the ground at this moment. "Tony Stark, what your father did to my family more than 40 years ago, I will give you back in 40 minutes. I'll let you experience what it's like to lose everything." Listening to Ivan Vanke's words, Tony Stark continued to follow Ivan Vanke's trail while delaying time. "Okay, then let's get together and work together. Sir, tri-state area, Manhattan and the outer boroughs. Tony Stark, I know you're after me, it's okay, I hope you're ready." After speaking, Ivanka hung up the phone directly. Just after the call ended, the Jarvis computer displayed that the tracking was not completed. Damn it. Looking at the phone that was hung up, Tony Stark said to Suche, "Listen, buddy, it's obvious that Ivan Vanke has escaped from prison. What do you think he's going to do?" As he spoke, Tony Stark looked at the computers next to him. At this moment, the computer is displaying pictures of the World Expo and Justin Hammer. And the slogan is, "For maintaining world peace." World Expo. That guy Ivan Vanke must have been rescued by Justin Hammer, the Joker who has been imitating me and trying to surpass me. I knew that the so-called steel soldiers displayed by Hammer Industries today are not that simple. Damn it, Peepo is still there. Watching Tony Stark get up, Suche said, "Go, Tony, bring Rhodes with you. It's a test for Rhodes to join the Avengers reserve team. In addition, I will let Natasha Romanoff go to Hammer Industries. If there is no accident, the steel soldiers at the World Expo should have been controlled by Ivan Vanke." Good. Hearing Suche's words, Tony Stark nodded, then got up and walked towards the battle armor. After hanging up the video, Suche took out a pair of glasses from the drawer and put them on his face. With the glasses on, the soft light that wasn't glaring scanned Suche's pupils. Soon, a gentle female voice rang in Suche's ear. "Night, sir. Good evening. Saturday, mobilize the Stark Industrial Satellite to show the status of the expo in a holographic projection." "Okay, sir. The Stark Industrial Satellite is being mobilized to show you the real-time situation of the World Expo site." Well, Saturday is an artificial intelligence assistant built by Tony Stark for Suche. At the same time, the authority is very high, second only to Jarvis. With Suche's pupil scan, it can even mobilize Stark Industrial Satellites and Drone Combat Authority. When necessary, you can even mobilize the soldiers of the exclusive King Tony. It can be said that from this point it is not difficult to see how much trust Tony Stark has in Suche. After the real-time situation of the World Expo site was mobilized in the form of holographic projection on Saturday, Suche took out his mobile phone and called Natasha Romanoff. As soon as the call was connected, Suche said, "Nah, good evening, I didn't disturb you, let's rest." "I haven't rested yet, I'm going to watch Friends again. You know, I didn't have much time to follow this show before. I plan to watch it again from the first season." "Sorry, nah, I hope you will have to work overtime tonight." Inside the Avengers Alliance base. After hearing Suche tell the story, Natasha Romanoff picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. "No problem, anyway, I have enough rest during this time, and it's time to move around." Hammer Industries, right? Leave it to the rescue. Where's Steve? Steve. He has been away from the Avengers Alliance base for almost half a month. While changing into combat clothes, Natasha Romanoff said, "It's not S.H.I.E.L.D.'s mission, but no one knows where he went. Sue. Maybe you can call him and ask, but I don't think he can tell you directly. Anyway, when he left, he was both excited and melancholy." Steve left for more than half a month. Was he excited and melancholy before he left? Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Suche probably understood something. It should be that they found the trail of Winter Soldier. That's right, after all, Hydra has been wiped out for so long. I heard that Alexander Pierce, who was locked up at the World Security Council, died of illness. Therefore, it is normal for Steve, who has not resigned from S.H.I.E.L.D., to use the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. to discover the traces of Winter Soldier. Not telling himself, it means that Steve doesn't want to involve himself in this matter. As the Winter Soldier and Tony's friend, Steve probably put him in a quandary alone enough. There is no need to involve yourself in this matter. Natasha Romanoff, who had changed into her combat uniform, left the Avengers Alliance base and went to the garage, then started the car and drove in the direction of Hammery that Suche said. Seeing the icon of Natasha's car appear on the map, Suche said directly to Saturday, "Saturday, invade the city traffic management system and plan the optimal route for Natasha Romanoff's vehicle. At the same time, change the signal lights to ensure that Natasha Romanoff can go all the way unimpeded and rush to Hammer Industry as soon as possible." "Okay, sir. The city management traffic system has been hacked, and the signal lights will change according to the driving of Natasha Romanoff's vehicle." Hearing Saturday has ensured that Natasha Romanoff will be at Hammer Industries as soon as possible. Suche refocused on the holographic projection of the World Expo. "I have to say that the holographic projection in front of me can clearly broadcast the satellite of the Stark Industrial Building outside. There are also various cameras inside the expo to view every corner. Looking at the overall projection in front of you, it is really like watching an immersive movie." At this moment, on the stage of the World Expo, Hammer Industries, who had just imitated Tony Stark's dance steps, was speaking on the stage to the audience and the camera below. When the speech was at its most heated, the stage lifts were even used to lift rows of nearly 3-meter steel soldiers up. Obviously, these steel soldiers are targeting Tony Stark's steel armor. Justin Hammer is very confident that as long as tonight passes, Hammer Industries will definitely be able to surpass Stark Industries. There's even a salute to the camera as rows of steel soldiers rise up. The audience burst into applause and cheers immediately. Among the crowd, looking at the steel soldiers on the stage, Pipo said to Happy next to him indifferently, "A poor imitator." Aunt May, who was in the front row among the crowd, smiled and said, "Wow, there are so many steel soldiers, maybe this." "No, Aunt May, these things will never compare to superhero Iron Man Tony Stark." Before Aunt May could finish speaking, the future little Spider-Man Peter Parker said firmly with his fists clenched. "Really?" Laughing at her nephew, Aunt May showed a gentle smile. And Peter Parker nodded firmly with a small face. Mr. Tony Stark is one of the greatest superheroes, and these steel soldiers are just a big pile of iron. A hero of justice is never what he says, but what he does. Mr. Tony Stark saved the world wearing armor, and those steel soldiers on the stage are just machines obeying orders. Even if there were more of them, they would never be Iron Man. Looking at the wrinkled little face, he said something that didn't match his age. Aunt May asked curiously, "Peter, how do you know this?" "It's from the TV." Looking into Aunt May's eyes, little Peter Parker scratched his head in embarrassment. "Wow, what a smart little handsome guy." Rubbing Peter Parker's head, Aunt May just wanted to say a few words of encouragement with a smile. In the next second, a sound suddenly came from above the sky. Subconsciously raised his head and looked over, he saw the classic colored Mark armor falling from the sky and landing directly above the stage. Seeing that Iron Man actually appeared, the audience below burst into extremely warm cheers instantly. "Oh my God, that's the superhero who saved the world, billionaire Tony Stark." His appearance was enough to make all the audience excited, including Peter Parker with sparkling eyes at the moment. On the stage, looking at Tony Stark who suddenly appeared, Justin Hammer frowned and pushed his glasses. "Why are you here? Today is the stage of my Hammer Industry. Are you here to mess things up?" Forget about Justin Hammer, the Joker who likes to parody himself. Tony Stark walked directly to the microphone and said to the audience, "Everyone, please leave the expo site immediately. Danger is about to happen here. For your safety, please leave as soon as possible." Tony Stark, what do you mean? As soon as Tony finished speaking, Justin Hammer immediately stepped up to snatch the microphone. "Did you see that our Hammer Industry developed the Iron Soldier, so you felt ashamed, so you ran here on purpose? I don't care about you, idiot." Pushing Justin Hammer away, Tony Stark opened the mask. "After I finish this matter, you will know what price I will pay for taking Ivan Vanki away from prison." "You? What do you mean? I can't understand what you're saying." Hearing Tony Stark mention Ivan Vanki, Justin Hammer panicked visibly. But before he could continue to say something, the eyes of those steel soldiers who were saluting on the stage turned red instantly. In the next second, all Iron Soldier's weapon systems were aimed at Tony Stark wearing the battle armor. Seeing this scene, Tony Stark closed the armor, and then controlled the armor to take off. The Iron Soldiers who want to take these weapon systems activated away from the crowd. As Iron Man took off, the Iron Soldiers activated their boosters one after another, and at the same time the weapons on their shoulders were fired at Iron Man. The originally peaceful expo site was suddenly enveloped by bullets like a rain of fire. The people who were still watching from the audience screamed and turned to run away after seeing this scene. Don't ask. Asking is the characteristic of others. After all, if you live here, you don't have the experience of escaping from bullets and gun battles? Inside the island villa, watching Tony and those steel soldiers exchange fire, Su-Che immediately issued an order with his glasses on. "Saturday, activate the Steel Legion at the Avengers base, aiming to save the ordinary people in the expo." "Yes, sir." Listening to Su-Che's order, Sat chose to execute without hesitation. On the side, he came out of the bedroom and watched his boyfriend manipulating behind the scenes. Wanda took the milk and prepared to heat it up. Not long after, Wanda came over with heated milk and handed it to Su-Che. Then he didn't speak, and sat on the sofa with his smooth and white legs crossed, leaning on Su-Che's shoulder. Ah, this damn sense of security is simply too obsessed. Boom. Boom. Accompanied by an explosion of Iron Soldiers with a Hammer Industries. Below the crowd, Rhodes was wearing a battle armor and looked up. "Wow, Tony, are you playing firework?" Inside Mark's armor. After destroying the Iron Soldiers in front of him, listening to Rhodes' joke, Tony Stark said speechlessly, "Rhodes, start evacuating the people below immediately." I'll get rid of these clumsy imitations in front of me first. Then go find that Ivan Vanki. Receive. Listening to Tony's instructions, Colonel Rhodes nodded without the slightest hesitation. While maintaining the order of the scene to evacuate the crowd, while observing whether anyone fell down. In this case, everyone is running in a hurry. Once someone falls down, it is easy to cause a stampede. Everyone, please don't panic, we will ensure your safety. Don't be crowded, there are 4 exits in total, everyone can evacuate in order. Hey, the man at exit 3, there are children and old man beside you, what are you doing? Rhodes, wearing the armor given by Tony, tried very hard to control the situation on the scene. It's just that hundreds of people ran for their lives outside as if they were crazy. Even Rhodes, who was wearing a battle armor, had difficulty controlling the situation for a while. Just when he was about to take off and monitor the crowd in the air at any time, in case of any panic, he could provide immediate support. A series of bullets shot directly at Rhodes. Damn it, Tony, those steel soldiers aren't just targeting you, as if anyone wearing armor is their target. Choosing to take off without any hesitation, Rhodes tried his best to take the steel soldiers away from the crowd, and said to Tony, Tony, where is that Silver Moon Knight? When will he come over to support us? With him around, these steel soldiers can't even hold out for a few minutes. Listening to Rhodes' words in the battle armor, Tony Stark controlled the battle armor to circle in the sky to ensure that they would not attack ordinary people. He opened his mouth and said, Sue bought a private island in the Pacific Ocean, and is going on vacation there. Walter? On vacation? Grabbing a steel soldier, Rhodes slammed his head into the steel soldier's head. Well, looking at the steel soldier who didn't even suffer any damage, Rhodes was silent for a while, and then a special submachine gun popped out from his shoulder, directly crushing the steel soldier in front of him. By the way, are you Avengers treated so well? The Silver Moon Knight actually went on vacation. Isn't there any emergency regulation that doesn't allow you to leave for too long? Conman Rhodes, we are Avengers, not an army. Hearing Tony's words, Rhodes curled his lips. Although there is no disrespect, but Captain Rogers is indeed a little dereliction of duty. If I were him, then 70 years ago I would definitely choose to jump off the plane. 70 years later, I would make Avengers add some emergency regulations to ensure that in the event of a major event, the members of the Avengers Alliance can arrive at the fastest speed. Ha, it's a good thing you're not Steve, otherwise the Avengers would have disbanded. As soon as Rhodes' voice fell, Su Che's voice sounded directly in his combat room. In addition, Colonel Rhodes, everyone has the right to choose their own life and go wherever they want. Your method is more effective in the military, but it cannot be used in Avengers. So, although your proposal is very good, but sorry, this proposal was rejected by me. Hearing Su Che's voice sounded, Tony Stark immediately said, Hey Sue, don't listen to Rhodes being silly, his personality is just like that. I definitely know, so I don't mind. On the sofa, I watched Tony and Rhodes who were dealing with the Iron Soldiers Legion. Wearing glasses, Su Che said, in addition, the people below don't have to worry. I have sent the Iron Legion that will send the Avengers Alliance base to support on Saturday. They have already arrived at the scene to appease the frightened people. There are still many steel soldiers at Hammer Industries, but Natasha Romanoff has entered Hammer Industries and is hacking into the control system of Hammer Industries. After finishing the dozens of steel soldiers in front of you, Tony, you and Rhodes can go find that guy named Ivan Vanki. So, go ahead and fight hard. If the two of you can't beat Ivan Vanki together, then I think I will re-evaluate your abilities. Listen to Su Che's words. Inside the armor, Tony Stark rolled his eyes. The Palm energy cannon destroyed the power system of the Iron Soldiers in front of him, and then he said to Rhodes, Rhodes, what did you say that was unnecessary just now? Don't you know that in the Avengers Alliance, even I don't know how to argue with Sue? Look, Sue definitely recorded what you said just now. Maybe after the matter is over, he will give the recording to Steve. You know, Steve is the instructor of your Avengers Alliance reserve team. Water? After repelling the steel soldiers in front of him, after hearing Tony's words. Rhodes said with a helpless expression, please, you Avengers Alliance members won't be so stingy, and Captain Rogers shouldn't mind. Hey, he won't, but as long as Sue says something, then I think you will have to prepare for the next training. Looking in Rhodes' direction, Tony Stark had a relaxed expression. So buddy, good luck to you. Oh, by the way, the other two members of the Avengers Alliance reserve team, one is Wanda, who is Sus' girlfriend. She can almost tear apart the armor with one hand. The other Sam, is a huge fan of Steve, so Lord, God bless you. Listening to Tony's words, Rhodes' face suddenly became black. Damn, the future is not good. I have already hacked into the system of Hammer Industries. Tony, Ivan Vanki is rushing to you, and he is in District 5 at the moment. With the sound of Natasha Romanoff's voice, the next second to control the remaining steel soldiers, they also lost power in an instant. Thanks Natasha Romanoff, I'll definitely buy you a drink when I get back. Watching the Iron Soldier lose momentum in front of him, Tony Stark thanked Natasha Romanoff. You're welcome. Pressing the headset and watching the black dot symbolizing the Iron Soldiers in the video lost power. Natasha Romanoff said with a relaxed expression. Besides, I am also on sus side, so Tony, let your friend Rhodes be mentally prepared. After all, I am also the third teacher of the Avengers Alliance reserve team. May God bless Colonel James Lord, facing the voice of Natasha Romanoff in the headset. Rhodes sighed speechlessly. In other words, is this the superhero team that has been praised by the whole world and saved the world? Why not be so united? Well, may God bless you. War Machine Rhodes used his ex-wife to teach Ivan Vanki a lesson. It's one of the most famous scenes in Marvel. Especially how loud Rhodes blew the cowhide before the launch of the ex-wife. Then after the launch of ex-wife, how embarrassing the scene was. Wow, it's really amazing. On the sofa, with Wanda in his arms and looking at the real-time holographic projection in front of him, Suche said, Rod, I have already thought about your nickname when you join the Avengers reserve team. Tony's name is Iron Man. I'm Silver Moon Knight, my girlfriend is Scarlet Witch, and you're the fun guy. Fun man? I love that nickname. Listening to Suche's words, Tony Stark turned his head and raised an eyebrow at Rhodes. Dude, I think this nickname really suits you very well. Facing Tony's ridicule and Suche's revenge, Rhodes lowered his head and sighed. Damn it, why did I owe you so much just now? Sure enough, the latter was right. Anyone who offends in Avengers can't offend this one named Silver Moon Knight Suche. Saturday, just outside the expo, did Tony save the little boy with the Iron Man helmet? It's been recorded, sir. Okay, save this video, I think it will be very interesting in a few years. Yes, the little boy Tony saved as the future Spider-Man Peter Parker. It'll be fun to pull this video out when little Peter turns into little Spider-Man. There's not much to say about the rest of the fight. Iron Man and Lazirin and War Machine Rhodes teamed up to get rid of Ivan Vanki. This time, Ivan Vanki was considered to be dead, his whole body was blown into ashes. Seeing that the matter had been resolved, Suche spoke to Natasha Romanoff, then turned off the holographic projection and took off his glasses. The matter of these two people has been resolved, but it is time for me to think about myself. Although he is called the most powerful Avenger now, in fact, he is compared with those so-called gods. At most, he has a self-protection ability, the ultimate perfect water control ability and psychokinesis, spiritual magic and physical fitness Superman's body, etc. ability. There is simply no way to compete with those gods. Therefore, I must continue to strengthen my own strength now. There are two ways to increase strength. One is to destroy the enemy that he created and convinced everyone who has seen it. The other is the trust value of the holder of the Black Gold Diary. Nick Fury, that bastard, doesn't care about him. Damn, I get angry when I mention this. Unshakable 73%. Then next, it should be Gila. Hela's trust value is now more than 30%, and it is estimated that a new diary can reach about 50%. Although I don't know what kind of ability Hela's trust will bring to me when he reaches 50%. But her trust value is relatively easy to brush. After she got the diary, she only updated 2 or 3 articles before it came out. That's right, after all, it has been sealed in Helheim for nearly 2,000 years. If the Black Gold Diary is for Nick Fury, it will be something to know the future, so make some preparations in advance. But for Gila, it's more about killing time. Then, I will start with Gila for my new diary. Switching directly to Gila is not an option. After all, this will undoubtedly strike the grass and scare the snake, so it has to be introduced from Thor's side to Gila at 10 o'clock. Well, this is also easy to solve. The question is, where do I start cutting in? But now I do have several entry points. You should choose the best one out of them. Honey. After watching her boyfriend take off his glasses, Wanda wrapped her hands around Suche's neck, and her white and smooth legs kept gently rubbing against Suche. It's almost 11 o'clock, we have to rest early, and we will continue to build our house tomorrow. Listening to Wanda's coquettish, Suche stretched out her hand, and a princess hugged Wanda from the sofa. Hearing Wanda's giggling voice like silver bells, Su-Che knew that after eating, there was some essence of food. It's normal, after all, Wanda and I are young, so it should be understandable. It is a very happy thing to do some things with people you like. Two people who love each other do something they love to do. Su-Che and Wanda are very happy, but at the moment some people are a little worried. That's right, it's Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. Sitting on a chair in the office, Nick Fury took a sip of the coffee in front of him. He smacked his lips, then shook his head. Sure enough, just like what Sue said, the coffee powder is indeed not freshly brewed coffee. Even though he said so, he still threw the coffee beans that Su-Che gave him into the drawer. Then he turned on the computer, found the folder that only he knew the password, and clicked in. Looking at the folder, some names in a big event marked by myself. Nick Fury crossed out Ivan Vanke's name without any hesitation. Well, what happened at the World's Fair? Of course Nick Fury was reported. However, although this matter was resolved, the Avengers Civil War gave Nick Fury a headache. The lead has already appeared. During the more than half a month when Steve Rogers disappeared, I knew exactly where he went and who he met. Damn it, since you don't want people to know your existence, then don't go back to the past. You, a guy who was brainwashed by Hydra, after Hydra was eliminated, did not choose to hide your name as if you were relieved, but instead took the initiative to find the victim in your memory? It's fine to find the family members of the victims and make compensation for those sad things. As a result, after you made the compensation, unexpectedly, Wang Dahao also found out with a conscience that he voluntarily exposed his identity. I really thought S.H.I.E.L.D. was vegetarian. Just because of the so-called unbearable psychological pressure, I chose to reveal my identity. In the end, things got serious. Captain Rogers found out. Well, if it wasn't for forcing this matter down by myself. Maybe Tony Stark knew about it by now. Looking at the computer, there is a record of the Avengers split Civil War written at this moment. Nick Fury squeezed the space between his brows. Now, how to deal with the Winter Soldier is what Nick Fury is more concerned about. As for what I recorded in the document, there is something about the Sokowe agreement. Anyway, with myself standing in front of it, even if this agreement comes out, it will not be a big deal. Thinking of this, Nick Fury picked up the Black Gold Diary. Very good, no update today. 3 days later, Helheim. Finally updated. Seeing that the latest diary was being updated, a hint of interest appeared on Hela's face. After being sealed for nearly 2,000 years, Hai had already had enough of this meaningless life. The appearance of the Black Gold Diary brought a little comfort to her lonely and dark heart full of anger and hatred. Even so, Hela still couldn't forget the anger of being betrayed in her heart. If it weren't for Odin to backstab himself, he would even let the Valkyrie clan attack him. Then, Asgard has long been the master of the 9 realms. But whenever bored, Hela would sometimes slowly and subconsciously bring her own emotions into it when reading the Black Gold Diary. If he encountered the situation of the owner of the Black Gold Diary, how would he choose? If I were him, what would I do? It's a pity that the owner of this Black Gold Diary is too lazy to update the diary for so long. After finally waiting for the update, Hela naturally flipped through it immediately. Just think of it as injecting a little interest into the boring life of sealing. Well, that's what Hela told herself anyway. It has been more than 3 years since I came to this world, and it is still the same as the world I was in. I became a member of the first-generation Avengers Alliance, and also became the most powerful superhero on Earth. However, I know that in fact my strength has never fully recovered. A few days ago, Tony asked me if there was a way to open the passage connecting this world to other parallel worlds, because the other world was about to be destroyed. According to what Tony said in that world, Tony Stark has the 7th infinite gems in his mind, which is named Anthony's Gem of Wisdom. It can do everything conceived. But Tony Stark in that world no longer has enough resources to support him to open the passage to the parallel universe. With a population of 7 billion, there are only less than 9.3 million left, all resources are gone, and what the survivors face every day is waiting for death to come. Perhaps because he was infected by Tony's emotions in another world, Tony in this world wants to try to open the multi-universe channel and save those survivors who are dying every day. But unfortunately, in Tony's eyes, I am omnipotent, but in fact I have no way to open parallel universes. If it was me in my prime, maybe I could try to open the multi-universe channel, but my current strength has only recovered to 1/5 of my peak. Even if I am only 1/5 of the previous strength, I am already the most powerful superhero in the Avengers Alliance. Seeing this written in the Black Gold Diary, Hela frowned visibly. The current owner of the Black Gold Diary is only 1/5 of what it was in its heyday. Although Gila doesn't care about the most powerful superhero among Sha Lian. Even compared to other planets in the 9 realms, in Hela's impression, the people on Earth are like ants. Gila definitely knows that although the people on Earth are weak, there are many extremely powerful people among them. The strength of some of them can even compete with Li Ding, who has sealed him. But after all, among the huge population of the Earth, there are very few such people. But now, what do I see? The owner of this Black Gold Diary actually said that with his strength in his heyday, he could even open up a passage to the multi-universe? Hiss. Doesn't that mean that the strength of the owner of this Black Gold Diary in his heyday was even stronger than that damned Odin? Thinking of this, Gila, who is like a queen, couldn't hide the anger in her eyes. On the one hand, in her opinion, with such great strength, she didn't want to become the king of the Earth, and then let the Earth become the master of the 9 realms. Instead, is it enough to just be a superhero who protects the Earth? This is a blasphemy against that great power. If it was me, with such a powerful strength, then I would have led the Earth to conquer one planet after another in the 9 realms. Why even those ignorant and weak Chitauri dare to invade the Earth? If I were myself, I would have entered the Chitauri planet with a sword, and killed all the Chitauri. Well, Gila is bringing herself into it. After all, Hela's greatest wish is to lead Asgard to become the ruler of the 9 realms. On the other hand, the anger stems from the anger towards Ding. The longer I stay in Asgard, the stronger my strength will become. If only damned Odin hadn't sealed himself in Helheim. Then maybe, my current strength should be the same as that of the owner of this Black Gold Diary, having the strength to surpass the multi-universe. According to one's potential, level Godfather is only the lower limit of one's strength, not the upper limit. Damn Odin, do you know what you did wrong? Earth, Shield Sea. Looking at the contents of the Black Gold Diary, Nick Fury was completely amazed by the contents of the diary. Although in Nick Fury's heart, Captain Marvel Carol is his and Earth's last whole card. Carol is the most powerful superhero on Earth. But, even Carol doesn't have the strength to cross multi-universes and open parallel universes. Hiss. The current Su Che is only 2/5 of what he was before. Oh, God. How terrifying was Su Che in his heyday. I'm afraid they can all play according to Captain Marvel Carol. But even Su Che, who possessed such terrifying strength in his heyday, could not prevent the destruction of the universe he once lived in the end. Then, what kind of enemy will the Earth face in the future? Thinking of this, Nick Fury felt that even his breathing was a little hindered. He seems to have seen why Su Che was so desperate when he wrote the first diary when the Black Gold Diary appeared. However, there is a connection between Tony Stark and Tony Stark of the multi-parallel universe? How did this come about? Otherwise, there is no way to explain why Tony knew that his own world in the parallel universe was going to be destroyed. Moreover, Tony in another world actually has one of the wisdom gems of infinite gems in his mind? From this point of view, the multi-parallel universe seems to be more exciting than I imagined. Most importantly, Nick Fury discovered a blind spot. In the few simple sentences above, there is a key point revealed. That is, the parallel universe simply does not have another thoroughness. In fact, this is equivalent to a paradox, at least, in Nick Fury's mind. Although it is not clearly stated in the latest update of the Black Gold Diary, the world of Tony Stark, which is on the verge of world destruction, does not have Su Che. But, if there is Su Che in that world, then Tony in this world will not ask Su Che if there is a way to open the way to the parallel universe. Definitely, it can be said that Su Che, who was on the verge of destroying the universe, has died in battle. But according to Su Che's strength, if the Silver Moon Knight in that universe dies in battle, then the Earth is probably already destroyed. Just like what Su Che recorded in the opening chapter of Black Gold Diary. Definitely, it is far-fetched to say so, but at least that's how Nick Fury sees it. And Su Che once said in the Black Gold Diary that after he came to this world, I have been looking for the peers of this world. But it is a pity that this world does not have a second Su Che, a second Silver Moon Knight. Well, that alone is pretty telling. Although, it is a bit far-fetched to say so. But Nick Fury is willing to believe that there is no Silver Moon Knight Su Che in the world that is about to be destroyed. It's like, the Tony Stark of this world doesn't have that gem of wisdom named Anthony in his mind. Hold the Black Gold Diary and continue reading. As a result, the following content completely opened the eyes of Nick Fury, who can be stable no matter what he faces. After Tony knew that I had no way to open the multi-parallel universe, the whole person was silent for a long time. On the one hand, it was because he was unable to save more than 7 billion survivors, leaving less than 9 million survivors, and on the other hand, it is worried that opening the multi-universe for rescue will be the other two Iron Man Tony Stark. In Tony's heart, it doesn't matter if it's the villain Iron Man in the white tank, or Tony Stark who wants to control the world. In that zombie universe, all superheroes and ordinary people become zombies, and even his peers inevitably become the zombie version of Tony Stark. Whether it's these two guys who find a way to open the multi-universe, there are only about 9 million glaciers left to descend on the Earth. It is a devastating blow. The villain White Tank Iron Man is okay, at least he won't eat the more than 9 million survivors. But what if it is the Iron Man from the zombie universe? Once the zombie version of Iron Man opens the multi-universe teleportation device, then there are only more than 9 million people left, who are destined to become the rations of those zombies. And since that zombie universe can open the transmission channel leading to the world destroyed by the Ice Age, it may not be able to open this multi-parallel universe. After all, according to what Tony said, there is no mutant in this world, no Wolverine, Professor X, Magneto, no Fantastic Four, and no Dr. Fantastic Mouth. There are only Avengers in this world, but whether it is the zombie universe, the villain White Tank universe, or the universe that is on the verge of destruction, there are Avengers. Perhaps compared to those lacking in their parallel universes, the only one who has more people in this universe than other universes is me, Silver Moon Knight Suche. So once this happens, maybe this universe will also fall. This is what Tony Stark really cares about. Seeing that there are a lot of names suddenly appearing in the Black Gold Diary, Nick Fury, who was still a little sleepy, forced himself to sit up straight in an instant. You guessed it. I did guess right. The parallel universe Earth on the verge of destruction does not have Suche. And it's not just the parallel universe Earth that is on the verge of destruction, other Earths also have no Soviet Union. Only. Damn, I thought Tony Stark was just connected to the Earth in a far parallel universe. But now it seems that things are not that simple. Tony Stark, how did he connect to several parallel universes? Thinking of this, Nick Fury immediately opened the confidential webpage and began to record the names mentioned above. After re-recording these names that I have never heard of, Nick Fury leaned back in the chair. After thinking about it, he took off the blindfold, opened the drawer and replaced the eyeball again. Then he entered the word, zombie, into the computer. Just like what Suche said in Black Gold Diary. What worries Tony Stark also worries Nick Fury. What if the so-called zombie universe, zombie mutant and zombie Avengers open a multi-universe channel and come to this world? Do you want to study the zombie virus in advance? But how to study this? Go there and find a real zombie for research. Another huge problem was placed in front of Nick Fury. This vocabulary. Nick Fury suddenly felt very tired. I even want to hand over S.H.I.E.L.D. directly to Phil Coulson or Steve to play. Why don't you just take Maria Hill to the moon? Definitely, the idea is just a thought, let him drop S.H.I.E.L.D. now. This is obviously impossible. However, compared to the zombie universe, it is possible to open the multi-universe device and come to trouble in this universe. For the first time, Nick Fury felt as though Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes was causing trouble. It's not that much of a headache anymore. Asgard inside Asgard. Zombie universe? The universe on the verge of world destruction. It seems that the multi-universe world is still very exciting, and not all things that happen in the universe are static. Seeing the contents described in the Black Gold Diary, Queen Frigga was slightly surprised. I also don't know what kind of identities my sons Thor and Loki will play in these two multi-parallel universes. Thinking of this, Frigga became a little worried about Loki. Not even Hildam has seen him since he disappeared with the space gem. However, the only thing I can be sure of is that Loki must still be alive. May the spirits of Asgard bless their beloved and poor little son Loki. Underworld Heim. Multi-universe teleporter. For the villain Tony Stark and the zombie Tony Stark and the like. Hela didn't care. What she is more interested in is the multi-universe teleportation device written in the Black Gold Diary. Perhaps, after Odin died and sealed himself out of Helheim, I should find the owner of this Black Gold Diary named Suche. He should not be as ignorant of current affairs as Odin was back then. If he is willing to submit to himself, then I don't mind letting him be the second person to give orders under his throne. And with him, maybe I can not only conquer this universe, but even conquer all multi-parallel universes. So, no matter what, this Silver Moon Knight, who knows what will happen in the future, has to decide for himself. No one can stop yourself. Earth, watching Hela's soaring trust value. Su Che was slightly surprised. Say, what happened? I haven't finished writing about her, maybe the trust value. So, did I scratch this lady queen's itching with that sentence? How could it make her trust value soar so much all of a sudden? Thor says, Loki is gone. Even Heimdall's eyes couldn't trace Loki. When Loki was mentioned, Thor's expression was obviously worried. He worries that Loki is hiding somewhere, and a bigger conspiracy is brewing. But what I'm more worried about is that Loki will be in danger. Although, for the Earth, the current Loki is still the big villain who invaded the Earth with Chitauri, but for Thor, Loki is his younger brother after all. Although not dear. To be honest, sometimes I really have a hard time understanding the relationship between the Asgard royal family. Loki betrayed Thor again and again. Stabbing Thor again and again, but Thor seems to be used to it, and even enjoys the brotherhood between him and Loki. Normal relationship between brothers is definitely not like this. Maybe, this is shared by the royal family of Asgard? As if Hela would emerge from Helheim later. But to be honest, compared to Thor and Loki, Hela is more like a king full of arrogance. Helheim. Looking at the black gold diary, he was mentioned again. And looking at Su Che's evaluation of herself, a hint of arrogance flashed in Hela's eyes, and then she gave a soft snort of satisfaction. As expected of someone I value and want to subdue. Sure enough, even he thinks that he is more like the boss of Asgard than Thor and Loki. Based on this vision, shouldn't he be given the second most important status under himself after he has ruled the 9 realms? As long as he is willing to surrender to himself, then he will never treat any subordinate who is loyal to him badly. After snorting in satisfaction, Hela continued to watch. When you mention Hela, you subconsciously think of the very famous fable of Asgard, Ragnarok. In the beginning, everyone paid no attention to this fable, thinking that as long as God King Odin is still around, this prophecy will not happen. But later, the prophecy of Ragnarok really happened. Asgard was also completely destroyed in this twilight of the gods. Under the comfort of the Stone Man, even the foundation was blown up. According to the time, in fact, it should be soon. In a few years, Hela will break the seal and come out. At that time, the twilight of the gods will officially open. Look at the last paragraph of the Black Gold Diary update. Originally, there was a flash of pride in Hela's eyes, but at this moment, the evil spirit on her body exploded instantly. The bitter evil spirit seemed to vibrate even the surrounding stones. All of a sudden, several black long swords exuding the breath of death appeared out of thin air around Hela. As far as Hela is concerned, although she hates Odin extremely, she even wished to kill her former father immediately. But for Asgard, Hela loves it very much. Just like Thor and Loki, no matter how they rebel and struggle, their love for Asgard is the same. What's more, it used to fight for Asgard, and it has been sealed for nearly 2,000 years until now. Are they all still focused on making Asgard the Hela of the 9 realms? In her heart, Asgard has long been her kingdom. Coupled with the existence of Asgard originally, it can make Hela stronger. So she absolutely cannot accept the fact that Asgard has been destroyed. Asgard inside Asgard. Oh. What happened again? Feeling the seal of Hela actually started to vibrate again. A trace of helplessness flashed in the eyes of the already aged Odin. Since Hela was sealed by himself, although the seal has often been loosened in the past 2,000 years. But never so often as now. In the past few years, or even more than 10 years, Hela would only riot once. But now, in just 10 days, Hela's seal has rioted many times. If this continues, Hela may break the seal and come out before he enters the eternal sleep. Well, what exactly happened in Helheim that caused such a big emotional fluctuation in this eldest daughter who was exiled and sealed? Thinking of this, Odin felt helpless for a while. If it happens a few more times, I really can't die well. Thinking of this, Odin got up and left Asgard, and walked towards the Bifrost terminal, where Heimdall was. Your Majesty the God King. Seeing His Majesty the God King come here again, what else can Heimdall do besides salute? Speaking of this period of time, His Majesty the God King will come here almost every day. But nothing major happened in the 9 realms worthy of his attention. This was not the case with His Majesty the God King in the past. It was too much to come here once in a few months. Don't be too polite. He waved his hand, signaling Chaim to be more polite. After Heimdall got up, Odin set his sights on the universe in front of him. Your Majesty, Thor is still on Earth at this moment. Although he returned to Asgard some time ago, he returned to Earth again. And during this period of time, apart from often taking photos for some media on the Earth, I was more with that lady named Jane Foster. Looks like Thor has fallen in love with her. Listening to Heimdall's report, Odin nodded slightly, holding the gun of eternity in his hand, but he didn't speak. Your Majesty, there is still no trace of Loki. I have been looking for Loki's trace since Loki disappeared until now. But it is a pity that Loki has not been found in any corner of the 9 realms. Hearing Heimdall continue to report, Odin still just nodded slightly to show that he understood. But the silent god King Odin made Heimdall a little worried for a while. Not for a debrief on Thor, nor about Loki. Then, what is His Majesty the God King coming here for? It can't be pure, just to stand here and watch the gorgeous but dark colors in the universe. Heimdall didn't know what Odin was thinking. God King Odin naturally didn't tell him that what he had been observing was the legendary kingdom of death, Helheim. What Odin is really worried about now is that when he can't last long, Thor hasn't really grown up. There is absolutely no way for such a Thor to compete with Hela. It's just that no matter how Odin observes, he still can't find the riot in Helheim. Therefore, Hela has frequently rioted recently. What was the stimulus? System prompt. The black gold diary holder's Hela trust value has reached 50%. Do you want to receive the reward? With the completion of the 18th diary, Hela's trust value has reached 50%. Facing the reward prompted by the system, Su Che chose to receive it without any hesitation. System prompt. Hela's trust value has reached 50%. The new ability, Hot Sight, has been issued. Please pay attention to the host to check it. Introduction to ability. Heat Sight, controllable, heat ray ability can be released from both eyes, and the power of Heat Sight can be determined according to the mood of the host. The initial temperature of its power is 5,500 degrees Celsius, the energy file size host can be set, and the upper limit of power increases with the host's ability. Note. The host can increase the power of thermal vision by irradiating sunlight. Its power reaches a certain level and can easily destroy an entire planet. After the system issued the rewards, Su Che only felt his eyes warm up, as if an extremely powerful energy was injected into the 2 eyeballs. But soon, the hot feeling disappeared, and then the eyes returned to their normal appearance. But, hot eyes. This should be Superman or the ability of Cyclops. Although I don't know who is stronger between Superman's heat vision and Cyclops' ability. But one thing is certain, that is, the heat vision ability I have obtained now is definitely not weak. The temperature of the initial thermal sight is as high as 5,500 degrees Celsius, and as long as it is exposed to the sun, the power of the thermal sight can continuously increase. Most importantly, there is no upper limit. What is this equivalent to? This is equivalent to, as long as there is enough time, then not only can he use heat vision to easily destroy a planet. Even when the power is strong enough, he can easily destroy even the universe. This alone is enough to surpass other abilities. And with the advanced perfect version of Superman's body, I don't have to worry about the backlash of heat vision. And it can also control the power of thermal vision at will. Let's put it this way, Superman can gain great strength by basking in the sun. In the same way, by basking in the sun, you can also gain strength with no upper limit. Oh, it seems. Pepper jokingly gave himself the nickname Mr. Superman. Looks like it's coming true. And, as long as there is enough time, his future strength will definitely surpass that of Clark Kent. Honey, why'd I feel that you seem to have changed? He came over with 2 glasses of watermelon juice. Wanda handed Su Che one of the glasses of watermelon juice, and then asked curiously. Changes. Listening to Wanda's words, Su Che moved his body with a smile, and gave up part of the beach chair, letting Wanda lie beside him. Yes. Squeeze your body on the beach chair, and stick half of your body on Su Che. To be precise, it should be that your eyes have changed. In the past, my dear, although your eyes were very bright, as if you could speak, but there was a hint of melancholy and mystery flashing between your brows from time to time. But now, that mystical melancholy feeling seems to be fading away, replaced by a very glamorous feeling. As he said, Wanda lightly touched Su Che's eyes with his light white fingers. Well, how should I put it? It seems to be more attractive, and it also gives people a very strong sense of power. Can you feel this? After taking a sip of watermelon juice, he put it on the table beside him. Su Che looked at Wanda and asked with a smile. Definitely works. Ji Yu Yang leaned on Su Che's body, and Wanda put her chin on Su Che's body and said, You know, I fell in love with you at the first sight when I entered Tahualan Cafe 4 years ago. Woolen cloth. Honey, you waited for me to become an adult for 4 years, so why didn't I wait for 4 years? You don't know how much I like you. Looking at Wanda, Suche, who was lying on her body with smooth feet, she smiled and patted her small leather drum. I know. No, you don't know. Really? That's definitely it. Sniffing, Wanda lightly bit Suche's chin, and then pressed her head against Suche's chest and murmured dreamily. I wish I could integrate myself into your body. Listening to Wanda whispering how much she loves herself, Suche stretched out his hands and gently embraced his girlfriend lying on top of him. Under the sun, the endless sea is sparkling. The breeze blows gently, and the palm leaves flutter with the wind. The sound of the waves, the dancing palm leaves, the warm and comfortable sandy beach. Everything seems so beautiful. Wanda really wants time to stand still at this moment, if possible. In this way, I will always lie on my boyfriend's body for a lifetime. Wanda wished time could stop at this moment. Similarly, Tony Stark also hopes that the flow of time can be slower, so that he can put on a layer of armor for the Earth as soon as possible. Underground research room in Stark's private villa. I don't understand, Tony. Seeing Tony's serious expression in front of him, Dr. Banner spread his hands and said, hasn't the thing we wanted to add a layer of armor to the Earth half a year ago already stopped? Why now? Are you planning to restart this project again? I think that although the Earth has been exposed to the aliens' vision, but with Sue and the Avengers, even if Chitauri descends on the Earth again, we can still win. With that said, Dr. Banner handed the fuel barrier to Tony. Thanks. Signal to Dr. Banner to place the object on the table. Then Tony Stark picked up the fuel trap from the table. Thanked Dr. Banner, and then Tony Stark put the fuel barrier battery in the research material. After watching the value gradually stabilize, Tony breathed a sigh of relief, then straightened up and looked at Dr. Banner spreading his hands. That's right, Bruce, you're right. If Loki invades Earth again with the Chitauri, then we will still win. But what about other more powerful aliens? Even if we can win those aliens who are more powerful than Chitauri, what about people who are more powerful and mysterious than these aliens? Maybe our luck and strength are very good, and we can always win one victory after another. But what if we fail? What if the next enemy is not an alien, but a parallel universe who understands us very well? What about all of us? Look at Bruce Banner. Tony Stark said with a serious tone, sorry, Dr. Banner, I need your help. At least I can't act like I don't know anything when I know that maybe our Earth or even the universe is in danger. Because once this kind of disaster really happens, then I think the biggest responsibility may be me. Looking at Tony Stark's very serious expression, Dr. Banner was silent for a moment, and then asked cautiously, Tony, your anxiety attack is not happening again, is it? Dr. Banner's suspicions of Tony's anxiety attacks were not unfounded. The last time Tony took the psychic scepter from Sue, and then asked himself to conduct research. It is also euphemistically called to install a layer of armor for the Earth. At the beginning, I disagreed. Just because you say you want to put a layer of armor on the Earth, you can't start researching psychic scepters. After all, that thing seems to be quite evil. As a result, the roots of my ears are also relatively soft, and Tony's reason as above is indeed very sufficient. So I was convinced by him. Well, in fact, I am also very curious about the mind gem, one of the infinite gems. And then, when I was excitedly preparing to invest in the laboratory and work with him to study the scepter. As a result, Tony's research was stopped by Ms. Pepperpotts. What's the situation? I even gave up looking for a job as a professor in the university, and prepared to devote myself to research. As a result, the interest was stopped as soon as it was raised? Isn't this a game? Later, Ms. Pepper called herself apologetically. Only then did I know that Tony had an anxiety disorder. Fine. Since you are sick, so be it, I can understand it completely. I found a professor status in the university again, and I only need to teach those students 3 classes a week. This job is simply amazing. I can not only give classes to students, but also continue to study gamma rays in the laboratory, and strive to thoroughly research Hulk. It turned out to be good now. I had just started working less than half a year ago, and this guy Tony found me again. It is said that it is preparing to study the psychic scepter, and the matter of placing armor on the Earth has started again. Are you sure it's not another anxiety attack? Well, it really isn't Dr. Banner's fault for thinking so. After all, who is a normal person who wants to put a layer of armor on the Earth? What's more, what was said just now, once the peers of the Avengers Alliance members of the multi-parallel universe attacked. Please, even if there is the concept of time and space of multiple parallel universes, how do they cross dimensions and come to this Earth? More importantly, since they are all peers of Avengers Alliance members, they must also be superheroes. I haven't heard of the superhero of the Earth, who took the lead in attacking the Earth. But looking at Tony's serious expression, it didn't look like he was joking. All of a sudden, Dr. Na hesitated. Watch Dr. Banner's hesitation. Tony Stark shrugged his shoulders and said, "If we lose in the future when facing the enemy, the Earth will be destroyed. Then maybe this is because our strength is not strong enough." However, if we know that we have a chance to win, but we don't take too many precautions or even take actions, which will lead to the destruction of the Earth. Bruce, I think that's our responsibility. While speaking, Tony stepped forward and gently patted Dr. Banner on the shoulder. Believe me, Bruce, I really saw the destruction happen. I don't want the same thing to happen to ours. Facing the sincere Tony, Dr. Banner rubbed his hands together for a moment. Does Sue know about this? I mean, maybe we should talk to Sue. It doesn't matter from the moment I joined the Avengers Alliance, it doesn't matter if Sue led us to win the battle against the aliens in New York. I've always believed that Y is for all members of our Avengers Alliance. He will understand us. Putting his hands on Dr. Banner's shoulders, Tony Stark said solemnly, "Believe me, Bruce, everything we do is for the future of the Earth." He raised his head and looked at Tony's solemn eyes, then just lowered his head and rubbed his hands. After hesitation for a long time, Dr. Banner spread his hands helplessly. "Okay, then let's start. But before that, I have to make a leave call to my school. It is rare that a university is willing to hire me as a professor, so I cherish this job very much." "Definitely no problem, I can even make this call for you if need be." Listening, Dr. Banner agrees to continue to join his own research. Tony Stark laughed suddenly. At the same time, inside a restaurant in Brooklyn. "Sir, here is your steak." Looking at the steak served by the waiter, the middle-aged man sitting on the seat ordered it. Regardless of picking up the cutlery, he grabbed the steak with his hands and ate it. Seeing this scene, many people in the restaurant subconsciously looked at him, with a hint of disgust in their eyes. Ignoring the gazes of other people in the restaurant, the middle-aged man grabbed the cow and gulped it down. After the steak was eaten, he picked up a glass of water on the table and drank it all in one go. A piece of steak and a glass of water, the middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief as if he was full. Then got up and went outside. "Wait, sir, you haven't paid the bill, sir." I watched the middle-aged man get up without any hesitation and walk out, not even picking up the backpack that was on the ground. The waiter quickly chased after him, trying to stop the man to pay the bill and walk away. Just after chasing to the door, I saw the middle-aged man running away like crazy. Even in just 10 seconds, this middle-aged man ran across the street. Seeing the middle-aged man run away, the waiter just left side with a sad face. A customer skipped an order, so. Before the waiter could finish thinking, a violent explosion occurred in the store in the next second. The strong airflow created by the explosion directly lifted the waiter several meters away, and then fell heavily on the street. The car that was originally driving on the street also braked instantly because of the sudden explosion. All of a sudden, the streets of Brooklyn were in chaos. Those who screamed, called the police, wanted to rush to rescue but did not dare. All kinds of chaos appeared on the street, but the original restaurant was now shrouded in a sea of flames. At the same time, explosions occurred one after another in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx, and Jersey City. At the beginning, many people thought it was just an example. But when the news spread to the internet, everyone found out. Almost all places seemed to be agreed, and many violent explosions occurred at the same time. Dozens of bombings took place in New York at the same time. It is not necessary to know that this is definitely a premeditated bombing attack. And no one knows whether these explosions are just happening now or will continue to happen. All of a sudden, the entire sky over New York was shrouded in a shadow. A total of 23 bombings took place in New York City last night, and all the bombings were carried out in the same way. The assailants entered stores, hotels, restaurants, etc. in advance by pretending to be customers carrying black backpacks. Then when the time came to 7:30 in the evening, the bombs were detonated at the same time. Currently, the FBI has entered into the investigation. According to the data disclosed by it, 23 bombings killed 53 people and injured 329 people. Preliminary assessment of property damage exceeds $13 million. Based on the timing and modus operandi of the explosion, we have reason to believe that this is an organized and premeditated criminal gang. Here, we hope that the FBI will investigate the bombing incident as soon as possible, and return the people of New York to a safe living environment. Watching the report on TV, Nick Fury asked Maria Hill with a serious expression, "Hill, what do you think is the purpose of this group of crazy guys?" "Have no idea." Facing Nick Fury's inquiry, Maria Hill replied very simply and neatly, "However, the number of casualties reported on TV has actually decreased a lot. There were 23 bombings last night, and the real death toll has exceeded, because 4 of the bombings took place in crowded shopping malls. As for the injured, there are more people, but maybe we will soon know who planned." According to the video left over from the explosion site, our shield dispatched last night and at least captured people. Facing Hill's words, Nick Fury nodded. "That's right, the public does have the right to know, but it has always been the FBI's forte to suppress such panic-causing events." While the two were talking, there was a knock on the door of the calendar office. As Hill called people in, a SHIELD agent walked in immediately. "Mr. Director, the person caught in the bombing has been investigated." While speaking, the SHIELD agent put all the information of 7 people on Nick Fury's desk. "Director, the 7 people captured last night, before the bombing, were all ordinary people with legitimate jobs. When we caught them, we directly investigated their relationships. Through the investigation, it was found that these 7 people did not have any common characteristics, and there was no intersection in work or life." But what? Flipping through the materials of the 7 people in his hand, Nick Fury motioned him to continue talking. "Boss, after the arrest of these 7 people, they all showed indifference at the beginning, even the kind of contempt for their own lives. They were very stubborn. Not even Veritaserum can get them to talk. But within half an hour of arresting them, this person had a splitting headache one after another. After the symptoms disappeared, all 7 people became panicked. They didn't know why they were arrested, and they couldn't remember what they did." Hearing the words of this SHIELD agent, Nick Fury raised his head subconsciously. "Director, I asked a psychiatrist and the most professional people to conduct interrogations, and the psychiatrist explained that they were probably controlled by hypnotic ability before, or awakened the second grid. So the splitting headache after the arrest is the reason why the consciousness returned to sobriety. When they were interrogated afterwards, some wept bitterly, some panicked and angry, but all insisted that they were innocent and could not remember anything. The results of Veritaserum and polygraph test showed that what they said was true." Listening to the SHIELD agent's report, Nick Fury frowned and said, "You mean, the bombings they caused at the same time last night were actually because they were controlled by someone?" "Secretary, according to the results of the interrogation in front of me, it is indeed the case. On the contrary, when the headache was splitting, 2 prisoners seemed to be muttering to themselves that the targets were Captain Steve Rogers and Silver Knight Su Che. But when the headaches pass, they can't remember anything." Facing the report from the SHIELD agent, Nick Fury stared. Then he nodded, indicating that he could leave. "Wait until the agent leaves." Nick Fury handed the information to Hill and asked, "What do you think?" No answer to Nick Fury's question yet. Maria Hill looked at the information of the 7 people who were arrested very seriously. The information of these 7 people is very detailed, even which school they study, who they have a very good relationship with, and who they have a bad relationship with are all recorded in it. After reading all the information of these 7 people, Maria Hill pondered for a moment, then replied, "Nick, if all these materials are true, then maybe they really are being controlled. Although the hypnotic ability of the top psychiatrist is very powerful, I don't think it is possible to make 23 people carry backpacks and cause an explosion at the same time. Perhaps Medusa Doris can do it, but there is no clue about what she will never do. So, I prefer mind control." Listening to Hill say that she prefers these people to be mind control, Nick Fury nodded. "According to the data, these people have never had any intersections, and their interpersonal relationships don't even have the slightest overlap. It's more like grabbing a stranger on the street in every borough at random. However, the mind control you mentioned should refer to Loki holding a psychic scepter controlling Clint Barton. And the Purple Man." Looking at Nick Fury, Maria Hill said seriously, mind control, this is something ordinary people can't guard against at all. However, SHIELD has temporarily recorded only a few people with this kind of ability, and there are only a few people who can achieve such a level of mind control. I can only think of one, and that is Sue. It's just that Sue is on vacation with Wanda on a small island in the Pacific Ocean right now. Moreover, I don't have any doubts about Su Che. If he really wants to do this, then according to his strength, There is no need to waste this time, because no one can stop him. Call Sue. After Maria Hill finished speaking, Nick Fury also took out his mobile phone. You call Sue, and I'll call Captain Rogers. Didn't you just say that? The main targets are Rogers and Sue. Since someone has called the battle, then we will continue. Terrorist attack. This is definitely a terrorist attack. Oh my god. I booked this restaurant in Queens last night, and I'm going to propose to my girlfriend. The time is only 8 o'clock in the evening, and now I'm afraid to think about it. The FBI's report was completely fake. The commercial building in Manhattan exploded, and there were more than 40 dead bodies pulled out. So 23 bombings can't just kill 50 people, they're fooling us. We must ask for an explanation, otherwise no one knows whether such a terrorist attack will happen to us. God bless us. No, we should ask a superhero like Avengers to solve this matter. We must not trust those sick people who are loyal to cover up and fool us. I'd rather pay my taxes to the Avengers than give them a paycheck to those goddamn sick people. Silver Moon Knight, Captain Rogers, Iron Man, where are you? I hope you can stand up and protect us, please. On the internet, many people on the internet are discussing the 23 bombings that occurred at the same time. There have even been requests from many people, hoping to let the Avengers superhero take over this matter. Especially people living in New York, even the most basic school and work. Don't even dare to eat out. Everyone is afraid of going out of the house in the morning, but they will not be able to return home alive in the evening. All of a sudden, it can be said that the whole of New York was shrouded in dark clouds. This terrorist attack and bombing caused fear in the hearts of all the people in the city. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Sue Che, who had finished his vacation, sat on a chair and looked at Steve Rogers, who was holding a tablet and seriously reading online comments and requests. I thought you wouldn't come back today. How can it be? Listening to Sue Che talking to himself made Tiff put the tablet on the table. A trace of worry flashed between the brows. Such a big matter, plus Nick Fury asked us to come back by name. How could I not come back? However, the sooner this matter is resolved, the appointment is made, Sue. Once fear grows and spreads in the hearts of these ordinary people, I worry that something more unacceptable will happen after a long time. Speaking of this, Steve suddenly raised his eyebrows at Sue Che and said, how about your vacation life for more than half a month? I heard that you bought a small island in the Pacific Ocean and have been vacationing with Wanda all the time? Well enough. Looking at Steve's eyes, Sue Che spread his hands and smiled. Sunshine, beach, coconut milk, fine wine and food, and the seaside houses we built with our own hands. That's really nice. Leaning back on the chair, he glanced at the room with only himself and Sue Che. Steve said softly, it was not easy for me for more than a month. First I found Bucky. Since Hydra was wiped out, Bucky has been hiding in hiding. For some reason, I met a prince's heir. By the way, do you know Wakanda? Looking at Sue Che, Steve shrugged his shoulders. I never thought that Bucky would get involved with the prince's son of Wakanda. He even wanted to get the throne of Wakanda for the prince's son at one point. Fortunately, the king of Wakanda knew that Bucky was controlled by the brainwashed words of Hydra, so he didn't blame Bucky. But for the next few years, Bucky will be staying in Wakanda to repay the damage he caused. Then, Steve pointed to the shield on the table. No, this shield was built by Howard with vibranium back then, and the one with the most vibranium on the earth is Wakanda. Hearing Steve's words, Sue Che laughed and said, so, for more than a month, is it to help Wakanda give Bucky a meal? I think Tony would love to hear that. Come on buddy, you must not tell Tony about this, at least not let Tony know where Bucky is right now. Rubbing his cheeks with his hands, Steve said helplessly, wait a little longer, wait until I finish the hatred between Bucky and Tony. Well, actually I have no idea at all. Looking at the tangled and helpless Steve, Sue Che shrugged his shoulders. All right, anyway, I won't be involved in the triangle relationship between you and Tony and Bucky. After all, no matter who I help, the other party will always be the injured one. Hearing this, Steve breathed a sigh of relief, and then smiled at Sue D. Thanks, buddy. The first thing Steve did when he came back was to confess to Sue Che that he found the trace of Bucky, and told Sue Che where Bucky is now and what happened. Not that Steve was worried that Sue Che would side with Tony. Instead, in front of Sue Che, Steve felt that he shouldn't have any secrets to hide. Especially after Sue Che asked where he had been for more than a month. Although everyone has their own secrets that they don't want others to know. But for Steve, Sue Che is someone he can absolutely trust. As the two people said this, the door of the meeting room was pushed open. Are you done talking? Nick Fury in a classic black leather trench coat walked in, and then handed over the information of the 7 people who were arrested to Su Che and Steve. Now that the chat is over, I think we should get down to business. Sue. I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation with Wanda though. But the bombing that happened in New York has caused panic in the whole city. If we can't investigate the forces behind these people as soon as possible, and then eradicate them in one fell swoop, then maybe it won't be long before the same tragedy will happen again. At that time, with the excitement and fear in the hearts, I think the whole city will be in chaos. Listening to Nick Fury's words, Su Che and Steve took a look at the detailed information. Nick. What are the clues here at S.H.I.E.L.D.? Just briefly glanced at the information of these 7 people, Su Che casually threw the information on the table. It has been a night plus a morning since I worked on the post, don't tell me that S.H.I.E.L.D. has no clues now. There are some clues. Sitting opposite Su Che and Steve, Nick Fury said earnestly. According to the interrogation results of these 7 people, they should be controlled by someone's mind, that's why they made this horrible attack. Obviously, behind this incident, there is at least one, or a group of supernatural abilities. That's why I called you 2 back. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. is very experienced in capturing these supernatural abilities, I think it's best for you to complete this matter yourself. Because the target of this terrorist bombing is for you too. Aiming at us. Looking at Nick Fury in front of him, Steve Rogers frowned. Why is this bombing targeted at us? And if it was targeting the 2 of us, then the location of the bombing shouldn't be in Sue's Peach Blossom Forest Cafe. Or an Avengers Alliance base. After all, everyone in Sus Tahualan Cafe knows that hundreds of people go to check-in every day. And the Avengers Alliance base is all superheroes. In the middle of speaking, Steve suddenly looked at Sudi. They dare not. Should be. Seeing Steve looking at himself, Su Che folded his arms and said, since the bomb attack last night was aimed at us, but they didn't take the initiative to attack our residence or property. This shows that the attack made by this group last night should be just a prelude to with the purpose of creating panic among New Yorkers. And then use the panic of New Yorkers to achieve a certain purpose. It should be some kind of kidnapping of the 2 of you by using public opinion, so as to achieve an ulterior purpose. As soon as Su Che's voice fell, Tony Stark opened the door and walked in. Wow, isn't this the famous Captain Rogers who disappeared for more than a month, and Yinyu who left me and took Wanga to take a vacation? Are the knights retreating? Let me see if you 2 have disappeared for such a long time, is there any change? Hearing Tony's joke, Su Che spread out his hands. Tisk, these words actually sound like a kind of resentment? Why? Do you envy me taking Daddy to vacation? But Tony, maybe you should take Peepo on vacation for a while. Look at how heavy your eye circles are. If you don't know, you might think you're almost drained. Facing Su Che's ridicule, Tony Stark responded with a middle finger. Then he said to Steve, Steve, are you finally willing to come back? Watching Tony start teasing himself again, Steve smiled and shook his head. I don't have sus mouth that even Tony can't hold back. But what Sue said was indeed the truth. Tony's eye circles seem to have deepened a lot. It's really a little bit. Ahem, it's obvious now. Pulling up a chair and sitting down, Tony Stark looked at Su Che and Steve and said, since those people didn't attack the Avengers Alliance base and Sus Peach Blossom Forest Cafe, I'm afraid the purpose is to use this bombing that has panicked the whole New York as a threat. Then while the people in New York are in fear, they will kidnap you in a certain way, so that you must do what they want, so as to achieve a certain purpose. Under normal circumstances, you will definitely not compromise, but what if it is mixed with the wishes of millions of people? You know, once a person grabs a life-saving straw when drowning, he will pull the straw up without any hesitation. Even if, this straw will be broken by people who are afraid of drowning. As he spoke, Tony Stark pointed to the information of the 7 people on the table. There were these people last night, and there may be more people to create chaos and spread fear. When the public's fear reaches the extreme, then these behind-the-scenes people will definitely stand up and ask you 2 to complete their goals. Under the drowning effect, even if the 2 of you are superheroes who once saved the world. Then once you choose to refuse to compromise with the enemy, I am afraid that the masses surrounded by fear will spit you to pieces. Don't think that the masses are rational. Maybe they adore you very much at the moment, but compared with fear in their own lives. Idle? Huh? Listening to Tony's seriousness, both Steve and Nick Fury lost their smiles at the moment. Su Che, on the other hand, took the nail clippers and trimmed his nails indifferently. It's as if he doesn't take this matter to heart at all. Oh Kong busy, buddy, I've made my words so clear, can't you be a little nervous? Seeing Su-che calm and composed, it was as if he didn't care about his business at all. Tony Stark immediately spread his hands. On the other hand, Steve and Nick Fury looked at Su-che's calm expression. The originally tense state of mind relaxed a little bit. Nothing to be nervous about. After blowing on the manicured nails, Su-che threw the nail clippers to Steve next to him. Actually, everyone knows that thieves need to do this. No matter what purpose the people behind the scenes have, we just accept the move. Instead of panicking at this time, it's better to find a way to clarify the matter first, at least to find out the clues we need. Be prepared to be safe. Saying that, Su-che stood up from the chair, and said to Nick Fury, "Nick, I want to meet the 7 people who were arrested last night." "No problem, I'll take you there myself." Hearing Su-che's words, Nick Fury took the initiative to get up and lead Su-che towards the SHIELD detention room. For the Avengers, for Su-che, Nick Fury are all extremely important. It's one of his strongest aces, and Nick Fury won't let it get bogged down anyway. You know, since the New York War, some people have been pouring dirty water on the Avengers. Holds the Avengers responsible for the Battle of New York and even calls for them to stand trial. Nick Fury has been putting people down for such idiotic remarks. Even after investigating who was manipulating these guys, Nick Fury ordered several of them to be eliminated. That's right, the manipulators behind these remarks are just some speculative congressmen. They want to use this so-called symbol of freedom of speech to get them more votes. Even the guys who want to run for governor are secretly supporting these people. For this reason, Nick Fury took action without any hesitation, and investigated even a little bit of incidents on these congressmen. And then, let them run for bed length in prison. It was precisely because of Nick Fury's behind-the-scenes tactics that the rumors about the Avengers alliance being blamed on the internet completely disappeared during that time. Otherwise, those guys in Congress will definitely seize this opportunity and make the members of the Avengers alliance their jobs. This is something Nick Fury absolutely does not want to see. This time is the same. Nick Fury isn't going to let the Avengers alliance get dirty. Know that there will be big events in the future, even related to the situation of the Earth Security Committee. The Avengers alliance must be positive and clean. Whoever dares to stretch out his hand, then he dares to chop off his hand without any hesitation. SHIELD holding room. OMG, what did I do? God, how could I do this? As soon as he entered the detention room, he saw a middle-aged man curled up on the ground crying. Even the SHIELD staff couldn't persuade that feeling of remorse. It's recalling what he did. Entering the detention room, watching the scene in front of him, Nick Fury turned his head to Su-che and said, "After waking up from the controlled state, they can't remember anything." But looking at it now, he should have remembered. Speaking of this, Nick Fury suddenly said curiously, "When Clint was controlled by Loki holding a psychic scepter, he didn't look like this. And with mind control removed, Clint still remembers what he did while under Loki's control. So, do you think he is pretending?" Facing Nick Fury's inquiry, Su-che did not answer. Instead, he took a step forward and came to the man curled up on the ground crying. Putting his hands on the middle-aged man's head, all the things the man said appeared in front of Su-che's eyes in the next second. Well, this trick is also a kind of mind magic. It was when Loki was dealing with Valkyrie, he found the clip of Hela slaughtering Valkyrie from Valkyrie's mind. Su-che's spiritual magic is the top kind, so Lu-ji will be his own minister. Loki won't, he still will. This is the same as Queen Frigg of Asgard, who can directly see a person's soul. Among the clips seen by Su-che, this middle-aged man was suddenly caught in the car by a guy wearing a mask on his way home from get off work. Before he could react, the masked man's eyes turned purple. Then the middle-aged man lost consciousness. When he regained consciousness, he found himself standing on the street, as if he had been in a daze for a few minutes. After that, everything was as if nothing happened. He should go home and do what he had to do. Until last night, he had already booked a restaurant and was planning to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of his marriage with his wife. After hearing a burst of strange music, the whole person got up and walked to the bathroom as if uncontrollably. Then, in a dazed state, he took out a black backpack containing a bomb from the bathroom and returned to his seat. At that time, the whole person seemed to be out of control. No matter how his wife called him, he had no sense of autonomy. Instead, he was filled with hunger, ignored the eyes of everyone in the restaurant, grabbed the food and ate it. After eating food, the first thought in the subconscious mind is extreme fear. The kind of strong fear that came from the bottom of his heart made him unable to make other choices, but to make noodles quickly. Take back the hand that was on the middle-aged man's head. Su Che frowned slightly. Nick Fury on the side stepped forward and asked, "How is it? Did you find anything unusual?" His wife and 1-year-old son also died in the bombing. Looking at the middle-aged man curled up on the ground in agony, Su Che sighed, and then said to Nick Fury, "Take me to see other people." Facing Su Che's request, Nick Fury naturally had no reason to refuse. A total of 7 people were arrested in the bombing. But the states shown by these 7 people are different. Some cried bitterly, unable to believe that they had done such a horrible thing. Some shouted that none of this was done by him. Others have already thought of the black backpack and the bombing, and kept asking what would happen to them. But without exception, when Su Che saw the pictures of these people, the scene was almost the same. Different times, different places. The only thing in common is that after being controlled, there was a brief loss of consciousness. Before the bombing, they all heard the same piece of music. However, there are 2 people who may have slightly stronger mental power, so after being caught by a person whose eyes emit purple light. During the coma, I unconsciously heard a conversation between 2 people in the car. One of them asked, "Do you think this will bring the Silver Moon Knight and Captain Rogers into submission? After all, the organization doesn't know about this." And another person replied, "When the entire New York crowd is in fear, if the 2 of them don't want to be ruined, then they will definitely cooperate obediently. If S.H.I.E.L.D. dares to arrest our people, they must pay the price. In addition, this can be regarded as doing our best for the organization. Maybe we can be promoted by the organization because of it." Meeting room. Listening to Su Che's narration, Tony Stark on the side said, "Look, I know this is the case. Isn't this equivalent to using the fear of the entire New York crowd to force the 2 of you to have no choice? By the way, buddy, can you draw the appearance of those 2 guys? Maybe there are pictures of these 2 guys, we can try to find them." Facing Tony's request, Su Che spread his hands. "I'll forget about painting, I don't have much ability in this area." Saying that, Su Che turned his head to look at Steve. "Steve, I need your hands." "No problem." Facing Su Che's request, Steve agreed without any hesitation. Nick Fury had paint and palettes ready. Su Che used mind magic to pass the appearance of the 2 guys he saw to Steve. After receiving it in Steve's mind, he quickly began to draw these 2 guys on the drawing board. Speaking of which, if Steve hadn't chosen to be the captain of Magnesium Country, maybe he can be admitted to the Academy of Fine Arts. After all, whether it is the monkey on a unicycle holding an umbrella that symbolizes himself, or when he just recovered from the ice. A painting depicting a building sitting on a New York square. Steve is still very capable in painting. Take a look at Steve's creation. Tony Stark shrugged his shoulders, and then asked Nick Fury. "Sue just said that in the picture he saw, those 2 guys said that S.H.I.E.L.D. will pay a price if they dare to arrest their people. So, has S.H.I.E.L.D. caught anyone with an unusual background recently?" Checking. Also sitting on the chair, Nick Fury said, "Although S.H.I.E.L.D. has not arrested many people, none of them is simple. Besides, some super ability users who are potential threats to the Earth are also under the surveillance of S.H.I.E.L.D. So if you want to know which one those 2 guys are talking about, you have to wait for the results of the investigation." Looking at Nick Fury, "I don't know exactly who those 2 guys are referring to." Tony Stark turned to Su Che and said, "It seems that we have to take the initiative. What are friends?" Everyone has a different understanding of the concept of friends. But for Tony Stark, Su Che is my friend. Although I don't have many friends, it can even be called rare. But without a doubt, Su Che is definitely my most trustworthy friend. As a friend, I have helped myself more than once. So when he was in trouble, Tony Stark would never allow himself to stand by. It is precisely because of this that Tony, who was originally studying the psychic scepter with Dr. Banner in the laboratory, after hearing that Su Che was in trouble, he went straight to S.H.I.E.L.D. without any hesitation. Although, his own joining is likely to cause trouble to himself. But, Tony Stark said that he would never be afraid of such troubles. So, when I saw the portraits of the 2 prisoners drawn by Steve on cardboard, Tony Stark was silent for a while, and then said to Su Che, "Dude, we must attack forcefully, only the initiative is in our hands. We won't let the enemy take advantage of the panic of the people and lead us by the nose." Listening to Tony's words, Sue didn't speak yet. Steve on the side smiled helplessly. "This is the portrait of these 2 people that Sue showed me with mental magic. Well, these 2 guys are all wearing masks, only their eyes are exposed, and they really can't see anything. But from the postures of these 2 people, we can conduct some analysis. First of all, The guy in the lead should be about 1.82 to 1.85 meters tall, about 90 kilograms. The other guy is under 1.6 meters tall. He has a messed up accent and doesn't look like a local. And the car they were driving was supposed to be a van. Judging from the reflection outside the window, one of the scenes was the streets of Brooklyn. I am very familiar with it. Looking at the crowd, Steve said seriously, there are 3 panoramic cameras on that street, and the shops on both sides of the street are also videotaped. Maybe we can retrieve the footage recorded by those cameras and track down the vehicle. Listening to Steve's words, Sue thought for a while. Then he decided, well, let's split up. Steve, since you're very familiar with the Brooklyn side, you take the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to get the surveillance. Nick. According to what I got when I used mind magic, they should have a companion who was captured. So you still have to ask S.H.I.E.L.D. to do some investigation internally to see if there is any background blur or similar targets. With that said, Su-Che turned his head and looked at Tony. Tony, I agree with your idea. Since there are many preparations, the initiative must naturally be in our hands. Leave it to me. Hearing that Sue agreed with his proposal, Tony Stark spread his hands and smiled and said, I knew you couldn't do without me. Well, leave this matter to me. Just do your best to show our Avengers' tough attitude in front of media interviews. Believe me, my relationship with those media is very good, absolutely reliable. Hearing what Tony said, several people in the conference room shook their heads. The funniest joke of the year was born. Tony Stark has a great relationship with the media. I used to be the one who gave orders to others. It's been many years, but this is the first time since I became S.H.I.E.L.D. director, someone actually gave me a task on my own initiative. With that said, Mare Fa Kexia got up from the chair. Besides, I will also let people pay attention to the wind direction on the internet. At least I will not let some people with ulterior motives use this matter to confuse the masses and implicate the wind direction. After speaking, Nick Fury turned and left the conference room. Watching Nick Fury leave, Tony Stark, who folded his arms, lightly touched Su-Che. He pointed his mouth in the direction where Nick Fury left, and then said softly, who are the people with ulterior motives in Nick Fury's mouth? Those idiots in Congress. They still want to be in the top position, and then gain traffic and attention so as to get the public MPs who support it. But S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't seem to have any direct relationship with them. And as far as I know, someone has actually been slapping our Avengers' attention. Hearing what Tony said, Steve, who was already planning to go to Brooklyn immediately to call for monitoring. Suddenly he stepped back and asked curiously, someone called our attention? Are you talking about those congressmen? Not bad, but not just MPs. Seeing Steve approaching, Tony Stark didn't keep a secret. You must know that after the establishment of Avengers, especially after defeating Chitauri led by Loki in the Battle of New York. Whether it is strength or prestige among the people, they have reached their peak. For a team with both ability and prestige like ours, do you think that group of idiots in Congress can let it go? I heard some time ago that someone even proposed to make an agreement for us Avengers for us to sign. The purpose is to control us in their hands. Once this agreement is passed, as long as we are used by them, think about it, no matter from which point of view, they can get huge amounts of prestige and benefits. Hearing what Tony said, Steve mentioned his shield. The original intention of Avengers was not to be a knife in someone's hand or a prop to gain fame. If we are supervised, follow other people's orders. Then, we have lost the original intention of the Avengers Alliance. Having said that, Steve raised his head and looked at Su-Che and Tony very seriously. Avengers must have absolute autonomy. If this agreement really appears, then I will definitely not sign it. No one understands the disgust of those positive creatures better than me. Hearing Steve's forceful decision, Su-Che smiled, and Tony even pushed Steve out and said, who would want to sign that thing? Don't worry, we are absolutely on your side in this matter, and we have Nick Fury standing up for us, so what is there to worry about? It's not that Nick Fury got fired as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Pushing Steve to the door, Tony said, by the way, for the next active attack, you and Sue are both talking about it. Sue is in charge of attracting firepower, and you are in charge of dealing with their dark hands. Nick Fury will give you S.H.I.E.L.D. authority, you must cooperate well, otherwise more innocent people will die. The next morning, the streets of New York. In the camera, hundreds of people took to the streets at this moment, carrying out protest marches with banners and signs. Throughout the process, people continued to join the parade and shouted slogans. All of a sudden, the entire parade was extremely powerful. In front of the marchers, dozens of media outlets continued to explain the purpose of the march to the camera. Obviously, after the bombing the night before yesterday, the local people are full of distrust for the state police and the FBI. We don't know why this happened. It's been 2 days and the FBI and state police haven't released anything about the bombing. A female reporter stood at the edge of the parade, holding a microphone and said impassionedly, according to official reports, the death toll in the 23 bombings the night before yesterday was less than 60. However, according to our interviews with people around the explosion site, the death toll in the Manhattan shopping mall bombing alone has exceeded 40. We can be sure that the casualty data given by the state police and the FBI are fake, deceiving us, and depriving us of our right to know. That's right. As soon as the female reporter's voice fell, one of the marching men ran over and spoke into the microphone in the female reporter's hand. The FBI and the state police have been deceiving us. Moreover, more than 2 days have passed since the 23 bombings, but until now, no clues or explanations have been given. We protest that those state police, FBI and even congressmen don't care about the lives of ordinary people like us. I demand that this matter be handed over to a superhero team like Avengers immediately. We need superheroes, we need Avengers, we need Silver Moon Knight Suche and Iron Man Tony Stark and legendary hero Captain Steve Rogers. Only they will care about the lives of ordinary people like us, and only they will be willing to protect us. Following the man's loud cheers, the parade, which had grown to hundreds of people, shouted in agreement. We need Avengers, we need superheroes. Leave this to the Avengers, only the Avengers will fight for us ordinary people. Silver Moon Knight, Iron Man, Captain of Magnesia. Sue, 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 Tony, 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 Steve, Steve, Steve. Along with the shouting of the parade, all of a sudden, the entire street was filled with shouts for the 3 Avengers. Just when the crowd's voice reached its highest point, the old man who was holding the microphone and was about to say something to the camera in front of him suddenly raised his head. Then he pointed to the sky with surprise and said, "Look, it's the Silver Moon Knight, the Silver Knight is here. OMG, it's really Silver Moon Knight, and Iron Man and Captain Magnesium. God, the 3 of them really came. I knew it, I knew that when the FBI state troopers and congressmen all abandoned us, our superhero would not abandon us." With the appearance of the Big 3 of Avengers Alliance headed by Suche, the crowd burst into cheers and applause. Thor. Big 3, meow meow. Seeing the 3 of Suche descending out of thin air, the eyes of the media reporters on the scene lit up, and they all rushed over to surround Suche alone. At the same time, in a certain company, "Boss, when will we send out the threatening video?" Watching and staring at the TV, the boss who is leisurely watching the real-time live broadcast. The black boy asked, "You must know that the 23 bombings the night before yesterday have alarmed S.H.I.E.L.D. This proves that our plan has succeeded. As long as we post the threatening video online, we could have saved Alan West from being captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. I figured even S.H.I.E.L.D. would have to compromise with the threat of bombs all over New York City." Hearing what the younger brother said, the boss chuckled lightly, "Don't worry, just wait. The fear of these ordinary people has not yet reached the extreme. Only when panic really comes, chaos will follow. And we, as long as we control the chaos, then whether it is S.H.I.E.L.D. or Avengers, they will bow to us in the end." Looking at the boss's swearing appearance, the little brother scratched his head. "I don't understand, but boss, we'd better let it go as soon as we see it. Although the incident is big now, it is still within the controllable range, and we are still behind the organization to save Alan West. But what if things are really out of our control? Once the organization blames us, both of us will die. You know the means of organization." Speaking of which, the younger brother scratched his head. "I remembered when I mentioned the organization. Boss, what kind of confusion and panic are you doing? And you also learned from the people in the organization? Idiot. I usually tell you to read more books but you don't stop. You only know how to exercise your muscles, and now you don't even have a brain at all." As he said that, the boss casually threw a book beside him to the younger brother. After receiving the book thrown by the boss, the younger brother glanced at it, then curled his lips. "I thought it was a great book. Co-authoring taught me a lesson for a long time, and the book my boss read was actually a Batman comic." Opening the manga casually, the younger brother muttered while reading it, "What's the use of reading this crap manga? You can't be the boss if you want to be Batman. Bruce Wayne's wealth is very high. Without his wealth, you can't be Batman. The most important thing is, boss, your parents are still alive." But mentioning parents reminds me of that famous joke from hell, what goes into an alley on 6 legs and comes out on 2? And he's sometimes Bruce Wayne, sometimes Batman, but always an orphan. Joker. Joker. Listening to the chatter telling hell jokes about Batman, the boss picked up the remote control and threw it over angrily. I want you to watch Joker. Looking at the angry boss for some unknown reason, the younger brother cautiously asked, Boss, are you saying that Joker gave Batman a parent's exchange coupon, but it's a pity that the exchange coupon has expired? You. Fuck. Speechless, he patted his head and said, why did he recruit such a chatty idiot back then? Don't be angry, can't be angry. It's a pity that the little brother I recruited was killed. Creating panic and causing chaos, I learned this trick from Oda. Forcibly suppressing the anger in his heart, the boss looked at the parade crowd on TV and said, that idiot Alan West. The organization asked him to investigate the information about Silver Moon Knight Sue Che and Tony Stark. And this idiot actually went to give Sue and Tony Stark hallucinogens. But no matter what, the organization is very interested in Sue Che and Tony Stark, and this time they may be able to get Sue Che's blood for research. As long as we get what we want, the organization won't. Forget it, I'll tell you that you don't understand either. Looking at the little brother who was a little dazed, the boss sighed. Why did I accept such a fool in the first place?